be like for 2 minutes. So it's going to have 2 feeds on here essentially. Because the first one didn't work, there was some kind of issue with it.
Facebook and YouTube, correct?
Yeah, so he said to eliminate one of the Facebook.
Yeah, so there's going to be 2 videos on Facebook. One of them's going to be 2 minutes, and then the other one's going to be this one.
Okay.
So,
yeah, what will happen is that it'll just be its own post, and then the next one will be live. And
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Minutes. So I don't have access to your Facebook, but you can. Whoever does, you just go on there and delete it like a normal post.
Okay.
So this is streaming now?
Yeah, so it's...
All right, beautiful. So these mics are live. So right now, hello everybody. Announcer will be in about 15 minutes. We're going to have the action starting in about 15 minutes as well. Yep. So we can start now. This will be good, and then you'll come, set your clock for 10 minutes and come on in, okay?
I'm good.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yep.
Todd, and win, you get like 400. Todd's a sicko. Oh, you want to see this?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition Friday night stream here at Club JAQK in Louisville, Kentucky. Had a little bit of issues earlier, but what else is new? Thank you so much for joining us here. Definitely understand that y'all could be doing better things than spending your time with us, so we certainly do appreciate that. Today we're doing something a little bit different here in Club JAQK. Normally we'd have our live stream for the cash game, but we're mixing it up a little bit. We're having a sit and go tournament here tonight. That's what you'll be watching. It's a $110 buy-in. You start with 20,000 in chips. We're going to have 15-minute levels. If one of our players gets knocked out and wants to rebuy, they'll be able to do so for 35 plus 5, total of 40. And at the end of level 8, you could choose to have an optional $20 add-on for an additional 30,000 in chips. Again, thank you so much for joining us. This is our $100 sit and go tournament only at Club JAQK here in Louisville, Kentucky. Again, if you're interested in ever playing, have any questions, comments, concerns, want to get to know more about the club, visit us on clubjackpoker.net. You can also come visit us at 165 Outer Loop. That's 40214 here in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville's only poker social club. And really the only option around town if you want to come play poker unless you want to leave the state. So you can also visit us on any of our social media platforms. That's going to be Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. And you can also find out more information on Poker Atlas or the Poker Atlas app. So basically right now we're getting everything set up. Everything's getting going. We're on a 15-minute delay. So we are all going to watch this at the exact same time. Hopefully we get to see some good action. I much prefer tournament action myself. That's how I started learning the game, was playing tournament poker. You'll notice that the actions typically going to be a little bit different than cash games. Cash games can tend to get a little bit more splashy. Tournaments, you need to be a little bit more conservative because you can't rebuy, although we do offer rebuys, but you would have to be starting with the new stack. You can never start more than the original starting stack, so a little bit different. You'll see some hands played a little bit differently. You'll see people take a little bit more liberties in tournaments just to win the chips. So looks like we're still a couple of moments away from the start. And it looks like we are getting the cards up in the air, shuffle up and deal. I believe we're running 15-minute levels for this event. Yep, 15-minute levels. Again, you start with 20,000 in chips. And let's get this going. Gonna start things off right. Looks like we got a nice full table going. Well, if you're with us tonight, if you're in the chat, let us know. Let us know that the chat's working. Last night's live stream had some issues. We had no sound. Let's we want to make sure we prevent that. So if you can hear me, give me a shout. Let me know. Make sure that the picture is okay. Make sure that the sound is okay. Just give me a holler. So blinds are currently at 1, 1, and 1. So anybody that's unfamiliar with the big blind ante format, it's a new method of which they implement the antes instead of everybody anteing and kind of slowing down the game. They just make the big blind ante, so it'll always just be the same as the big blind. So you'll see here that the blinds are 100, 100. So instead of everybody pitching up like they used to do it, where we might have like, $25 chips, or it actually had to be a lot smaller of a denomination. But they've actually since moved on to the big blind ante. Much, much more convenient. And here we have a 4-bet from Jesus. So picking up on the action, looks like we're going to go 3 ways. Don't know what Jesus has. I was actually informed that seat 2 had some issues with the card reading. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to get Jesus's cards working or not. We're going to see Mama J here with the spades. I think she should do nothing but call. Once your opponent has 4-bet and then the ace comes out, it's super likely that your opponent has aces, pocket aces that is, for a set, and you just don't want to go splashing around. Now that the aces come on the turn, we can see what Jesus's reaction is. Based on the quick check, if I had to guess, I would say he probably has something along the lines of like 10s or jacks. But no, he's going to go ahead and fire it out. We're not going to see it, so we'll just leave that to speculation. Unfortunately for Mama J, she's not going to hit that spade flush. It's always a suspicious bet when you 4-bet pre-flop. You bet the flop, and then all of a sudden you check the turn. It's very, to me, it kind of feels like a pocket pair. I mean, obviously you could have the aces, but I feel like once your opponent calls you on the flop after a 4-bet, there's no reason to slow down on the turn, especially with spades out there. So I just don't think that was aces there. Could be wrong, but if you're 4-betting pre-flop and then you bet the flop pretty decently, and then you get a call, and there's an ace-high board with 2 spades, maybe a straight draw, whatever it may be, it's fairly likely that your opponent would have the spades then at that point. So I understand checking for deception, but to me that feels more of like a pocket pair situation. I'm going to see this board, 2 jacks with 2 clubs. We're going to see Sharon here look like she's going to take the initiative, fire out with the king 10. Position, something to really make a note of is when you're in position, it really doesn't matter what your cards are. You could just fire out, and your opponents are going to be forced to make a decision. That's what you want to do in tournament poker, especially in tournament poker, is force your opponents to make a decision. Well, I haven't got a response on the chat, so I'm going to hop on Facebook and just do it myself. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me, that I'm not talking to myself here in the back room. That would be embarrassing. So okay, so I've got chat on Facebook, but it's not popping up. Oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm an idiot. As I'm missing all the action, we have Jesus here with kings, so his reader is working at this point, and it looks like he's just going to get a little bit sticky with his kings. Can't really blame him. Just because an ace comes out, you don't want to just start folding. But I think Kirk's might be able to get one more street of value. It's kind of, action's moving pretty quickly. Couldn't see what the bet was. It's going to go check, and Kirk's just going to give up. He's going to show the kings and then realize that the ace is good. So Jesus, His Holiness, pretty upset that his kings got cracked there, but I could make many, many more puns about that, but I won't. Okay, so yeah, I see y'all here in the chat now. Apparently, I'm an amateur when it comes to this. I had it set up on only YouTube's chat, so nobody was chatting on YouTube. It looks like most of our viewers are actually on Facebook currently, so certainly do appreciate you all. Let me know that you can hear me. I noticed yesterday, I was not here yesterday, they had a live stream for their tournament as well. But I believe an option was not checked to be able to hear the table. All you could actually hear was the booth. So if you did chime in yesterday for the live stream of the tournament, do apologize for any kind of issues that you may have experienced with that. But nevertheless, got it back up and running. We're here today. It's a lot of colors on his plaid shirt there. It's very interesting. It goes from red to black to red to black to red. Very unique. So here we're going to see Mama J with two pair, middle and bottom. Sharon with the same exact hand. This could get very interesting. Snowman has got middle pair with the backdoor flush draw, but he thinks better of it. He's going to lay it down. The ace-8 is also going to lay down, just realizing that you got a bet and a raise in front of you. Ace-8 kind of shrivels up even though you have top pair. So this is going to be interesting to see what Mama J does here. It looks like she is just going to go ahead and ship it, and Sharon isn't even going to think about it. Sharon is going to have a little bit positive in the equity just because she has the 3 of spades. So she's going to need to hit the runner spade one time to win this hand. And I'll tell you right now, if she does, Mama J is going to be angry, Jay, if I had to guess. So let's see if we can get a little bit of interesting turn. No, we're just going to go ahead and chop that up. So nice hand by Mama and Sharon. Ace-8 making a great fold to get out of there. Would have found themselves in deep, deep, deep trouble. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's Friday night. It is the 12th of January. Happy New Year to everybody. Looks like we're going to have a raise from C to 1. Kirk, he's going to go ahead and make that up to 400 with his ace-3 off. I would expect almost everybody to call behind him except for maybe raise. But let's see what happens here. Everybody's got a pretty nice holding. Sharon with the lead with pocket 9s. Yeah, raise is going to go ahead and get out of there with the queen 5 suited. And I feel like everybody else would typically call, with Snowman having the queen 10 suited, Greg with the 6s. Greg's going to go ahead and flop bottom set here. Kirk with the nut flush draw. Sharon, middle pair. Snowman, top pair. So Snowman is going to take the initiative. He's going to... Okay, so we must have misread seat 1s because there's just zero chance he folds the nut flush draw there. or he just misread his hand. Either way, it would have been a good fold, but looks like Sharon is going to maybe take a stab here. That would be extremely optimistic. Greg's going to get a little bit of value there with his set. Good bet. You can't bet too much because, I mean, it's very difficult. The board is so polarized. Great value from him, though. Yeah, I think we might have had a misread there on those cards because unless he just misread his hand, I mean, it's just such a terrible play to fold the nut flush draw there, even with a raise and a re-raise, especially a $100 tournament. Sometimes it might just be best, you know, just gamble, get in there. Obviously, you block the nuts, so. See here, or maybe he's the only person in the room that doesn't spaz out on the nut flush draw. Comment from Jake on Facebook. Yeah, there's a difference between spazzing out and playing super duper tight. In that case, you might as well only play suited aces and then only continue when you flop the nut flush. Generally speaking, if you're going to raise pre-flop with ace-3 offsuit and then fold the flop with the nut flush draw, you probably should just be better off playing scratch-offs. In a spot like that, you don't necessarily have to spaz out, as you say, and get all in. I think a little bit stronger way to play that hand is just to take a straightforward approach and just bet small. The thing about it is we know that nobody has the nuts on us, right? Like, we know that. So we don't have to go crazy. We can just basically bet small, bet small, bet small. No reason to go super crazy. I do know what you're talking about. There are a lot of people out there that do spaz out. You'll especially see it in Omaha, which I find crazy, that they're just always potting and trying to get all in with a flush draw. But it doesn't matter what game you're playing. You're still, if you flop that flush draw, you're still only going to have 9 outs to hit your flush. And typically, you know, best case scenario, or I guess the worst case scenario, you're looking at about 37 to 38% equity, which really isn't too bad. I mean, you're talking about winning the hand 1 out of every 3 times. So, not terrible. Definitely don't want to spaz out. But you also don't want to sit there and just wait to flop the nuts before you bet. This is a game where betting is the most crucial thing that you could possibly do, because you don't have to have a good hand to do it. Remember, these players can't see your cards. All they see is somebody betting. That's why all the best players always advocate for 3 betting, because it just always looks so strong. Got a question from Running Gun 502 Warzone Clips. Is this single table? It is. This is a single table shootout. So basically, this is the field. This is all you're going to see tonight. There won't be any re-entries. There won't be any additional players. We just have one table. Trying a new idea for the stream on Friday night. So we see here an interesting turn card, not to cut it off the thought, but this is what we call spazzing out. Okay, so we just witnessed a play before. Well, again, we don't know if the card was right or not, but now we're seeing Kirk get it all in here with just a flush draw. And it's never bad because you're putting ultimate pressure. But this is a spot where covert has to call, right? I mean, you've got the top pair and the flush draw, and if you're already gambling, you don't want to fold here. So let's see if he can hit the king jack of the club, and he does. Wow. So king jack there, that's what we call a spaz out. That's basically where you just see that you have clubs, and it doesn't matter what anybody else has. They could show you ace 10 of clubs, and they'd probably still call you thinking that they just have 2 live cards. So It's a very, very optimistic play there by King Jack of clubs, basically just trying to get it all in on the flush draw. But you see that a lot on the lower stakes tournaments. You will never see that on any tournament generally higher than $100. I mean, of course, there are players out there that do play like maniacs, but typically you're just burning money when you do that. More times than not, I mean, you're just going to run into a made hand or even a better flush draw. So I like playing my flush draws pretty straightforward. I like to maintain aggression, but I mean, if somebody's forcing me all in with a draw, I try to avoid that situation. Running gun, is it winner take all? You know, I'm not 100%. I think the original plan was to pay out 2 places. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it is 2 places pay out. Typically what you'll see in a single table sit and go is it's a winner take all. Sometimes you can obviously have more payouts than that, but I'm used to playing single table satellites where it's a winner take all. But I want to say in this particular event, because there's add-ons and such, I think that they're paying top 2. Jacob Bishop. You will see that in the $300-$500 fields a lot too. Yeah, so generally speaking, in the lower buy-ins, I guess when I say low, I mean really anywhere from like 50 to 500. And the reason being is because you just have more people that can afford to play those levels that aren't very skillful players. So typically, if you're playing in like a 3K, 2500, 3K, 5K, something like that, everything becomes a little bit more GTO optimal, right? Like, so everything is GTO this, GTO that. In these particular games, it's just more splashy. More people are wanting to splash around. If they lose, it's not a big deal. They can just rebuy or they come back and play another day. Plus, there's just not a whole lot of prestige attached to a single table tournament at Club Jack. No offense. I love Club Jack. It's just the fact that it looks like we might have an all in here from Covert. He's getting it all in with the last of it after that bad beat. But yeah, you just see a lot more splashing around. It's the same reason that if you're playing in a 1-2 cash game, you see a lot of splashing around. But if you... And now we have an all-in from Kirk with ace-8 offsuits. So at this point, I'm just going to wait for a seat open, and I'm going to call it a night for my commentating duties, and I'm just going to go play in this tournament. We have people getting it all in with king-high flush draws, all-ins, with ace-8 offsuits. He's going to get the bad news that he overbet that, and really he's not going to get much value unless he hits his 8. And he does not. So he's going to go ahead and double up that ace-jack. Yeah, but that's what makes these tournaments so fun, is the players generally aren't, when you play in the higher level tournaments, everybody's wearing hoodies, everybody's wearing glasses, nobody's social, everybody is just, thinking of the best things that they could do. In these kind of tournaments, a lot of people are just here to have a good time, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You never want to insult the way somebody plays. You can call them a donkey or whatnot, but you never want to improve someone's game plan. If they're playing bad, let them continue playing bad. Don't correct them. Looks like we're most likely going to have Mama J. No. Mama J is going to play a little bit coy because Jesus, in early position, raised it up with the deuces. So she's just going to slow play with her ace-king. I don't mind that play because, generally speaking, when you have an under-the-gun raiser, raising it up, looks like he went about 3x. We're at 122 currently, so 600. If you see somebody under the gun raising it up 3x, I feel like it's okay to go ahead and just call there. But you're also kind of setting yourself up for some tough situations. So, as we can see here, obviously Jesus doesn't like the flop, but Kirk with open-ended, Mama J top pair, top kicker, Sharon with nut flush draw, Steven with second pair, backdoor gutter, And Snowman just completely out of place, but does have potential backdoor draws as well. So we're going to see Kirk fire out first act, and then Mama J come out and immediately raise after that. Kind of polarizes her hand a little bit and goes all in. Wow, so Kirk has come to gamble. Sharon has come to... Everybody has come to gamble, apparently. Everybody's all in. This is going to be a massive, massive pot. Over 55,000 or so. Of course, we're only going to run it once. This is a tournament. Oh, 6-7 got there. And then the spade, Sharon gets it. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, with Mama J, she didn't play the hand poorly. I think you do want to mix it up there. But when you just call with your ace-king, you're setting yourself up to get beat. Now, that's not to say that even if she raised that either of the other two hands would fold, but we need to look at the actual position of what just happened. So when we have an under-the-gun raiser who makes it 3x, if Mama J was just to go ahead and bump that up to about 7.5x or something like that, not even big, right? I mean, if we're talking about 7.5x, we're talking about 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, somewhere in that range. I believe that Sharon folds the king 6, and even though Kirk's a little bit loose, it's a little bit more likely that he'll fold the 6-7 there, and she'll win the pot against deuces. But either way, I don't necessarily mind her play because you don't want to just always raise, right? So like, if you're always raising with ace king, then everybody's just always going to put you on ace king. So she just got a little bit unlucky there. She got it all in 3 ways with the best hand. It's just unfortunately too much equity to go around. Both of her opponents had a very strong equity share in that hand, so we'll move on. So Kirk has officially come to play. I like his style. I'm personally not that aggressive, but he's going to go ahead and 3-bet that up with the 6 deuce of clubs. He's going to get some action from Jesus, Sharon, and raise. We're going to see the ace high aboard, and the flop's going to come 2 hearts again. So Jesus and Sharon both have the flush draw. Raise with the ace. Kirk with middle pair. I don't expect Kirk to get too crazy. I understand wanting to play a little bit aggressively pre-flop and put some pressure on your opponents, but once the flop comes out 2 hearts with an ace, you have middle pair. Even a deuce isn't good because if you hit a deuce, you lose the 4-5. Really, the only card you would want to see is a 6, but let's take a look at this turn card here. Sharon is going to go ahead and fire out of turn, it looks like. It looks like Kirk is going to continue really small. Jesus probably just going to call if I had to guess. Yeah, Sharon's going to do the exact same thing. And if I'm raised here, I think I'm just going to piece the story together that everybody's weak. It just feels like it's draw heavy, and there's a lot of potential draws out there, right? So like you have all of the 4-5s, the 4-7s, the 2-4s, the 2-5s, the ace-2s, the ace-3s, the ace-4s, the ace-5s, diamonds, 10-jack, king-jack, king-10. I think I'd like a raise from raise here. Go ahead and protect your equity. See, we're going to get almost everybody out there. Jesus makes a really nice fold there. But let's see what Sharon does. Let's see if Sharon folds the flush draw. No? Nope, Sharon's never going to let that flush draw go. So that's the downside of chasing your draws. It's going to go check here and then raise. Might want to squeeze out a little bit of value. But it's possible that he might just check here and then realize that it would be absolutely awful to get check raised. No, raise is just going to go for value. Sharon's going to look at it for 2 seconds and then fold. Yeah, so again, that's the downside of just chasing draws. You just put yourself in an extremely vulnerable position by putting so much money into the pot with an inferior flush draw. We've seen it work sometimes, though. You know, some people, they just want to chase their flush draws. But I think Ray just made an excellent read of the situation based on the action. It really felt like flush draws and draws and maybe weak aces. Didn't feel like much strength was in that hand. Looks like we're going to have Sharon bump it up. How much is that? 3.5K? Is that accurate? The blinds are 1 in 200. And gets called. What is going on? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. What was that, like a 17x open? And flops a set. My goodness. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. So Terminator is just going to continue terminating. Makes it 3,500 under the gun with pocket fives. And is going to stack Kirk. Unfortunately for Kirk. So that was absolutely impressive to see such a large open flop in a set. I mean, I guess that's just why poker is so easy to some people. Impressive hand by Terminator, but geez, that's a very, very strong bet. Normally in those situations, if the blinds are 1 in 200, and I have pocket fives, although technically GTO recommends folding pocket fives there and raising sixes and above. But I don't necessarily always abide by GTO standards. I think the best thing to do would be to min raise or 1.5x. So in that position, I think under the gun with pocket fives, I make it 400 or 500 instead of 3,500, because you are just going to put yourself in a miserable position when you are betting that largely with the rest of the field to act behind you. Most of the times, somebody's just gonna go all in, and I don't like the raise. It's nice that she hit it, but I would not recommend that. I mean, you just have to think, when you have pocket fives, there's only 2 fives left in the deck, and a majority of the time, all the boards are going to be overcards. So, like, when you have pocket fives, typically the boards are going to be just like this: King 6 7, Ace 9 8, 6 10 Jack, something of that nature, and you're just always going to find yourself in a difficult spot. So we have Sharon again with 2 pair going against Covert, who is drawing dead, and Jesus, who's going to need a queen, jack, or a king. Doesn't hit it. So Sharon, doing Sharon things, is just going to continue to take these players out. This feels more like a free roll than a $100 tournament based on the way the action's been played. But people are here to have a good time, and I'm here to have a good time with them. Let's take a look at our chat here. Get 'em Kirk, says Jim Birmingham. Terminator does only one thing: terminate. Jake Bishop, it would have been different if out of position led river and raised solid raise in front of him. Oh, on the turn. Yes, absolutely. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to sit in this back room all alone and watch the poker that's being played be played. I would love to be in this game. Unfortunately, I have an obligation to call it. A little salty, but it is what it is. Looks like our player has rebought, though, so we're still at a full table here. So we're going to go 5 ways to the flop, which is going to come queen high. We got Sharon with middle pair. Raise, nothing. Steven, bottom pair. Snowman, gutter. And Kirk with the backdoor straight and flush draws, which I would assume is good for him, and in fact is. The turn is going to come at 10, and it's going to give Snowman that gutter ball straight. So Sharon is going to continue leading now with open-ended and middle pair. I believe this is a spot that Snowman should raise. Let's see what happens here. I wish we had better audio. Was it a bet and a snap shove? I think that might have been the case. Yeah, it looks like we had a bet and a snap shove. It's not a lot more for Sharon to call, but we need to think about the potential, the potential hands our opponent has here. What are we beating with King Jack? Looks like she's going to make a good fold. Yeah. Good fold by Sharon. It's a little too sticky to get in there. If we're going to be making moves, I think we need to do it on the turn when we block the straight. On the river, it's just another potential hand that gets there that could beat us. Based on this game, I mean, it could easily be like a queen 6 2 pair or something on the river. So good fold by Sharon. You don't want to get too caught up. I know you liked your equity on the turn when you had middle pair and open-ended, but once we get to the river and your opponent's still betting, I think that's just going to become an easy fold for us. See here. Keep the action flowing from Chaz. Yeah, absolutely. This is the only reason I'm enjoying doing this, is for the action. Props to you, my guy. I couldn't do it. I'd love to be a commentator, but much prefer playing. Yeah, so basically about that, just being addicted to poker for so long. I myself, for anybody that's unaware, used to be a poker dealer. Spent many, many years on the felt, on the other side of the felt. So me personally, it always felt like in my head I would be doing commentating anyways. So when they asked me to, because I was recommended to be a commentator, it was kind of just no-brainer, because I used to sit and do it for free essentially while I was at work, basically just to pass the time, guessing what people had in their hands. So I much prefer to be playing myself, but this is basically stealing money in my eyes, just watching people play poker and judging them and either saying they're bad or good. It's fun. So we got James Kelly in the chat. My money is on raise. Yeah, that's a good solid bet. I would say that's probably, if I had to guess, if it was available at a sportsbook, would be minus 400 at least. Yeah, I don't want to get in too many betting odds for this lineup, because if we started giving odds to people, there might be people that get offended. So I don't want to go too crazy. I'll just leave it at raise. Being the player that he is definitely in the negative. You wouldn't make much money if you bet on raise to win. Based on the way that Sharon's playing and catching cards, I would have to guess she is probably the current favorite. I would say that she's probably at plus 180, maybe plus 220 right now. Let's see, Captain Furley, I'll take Kirk. I'm open to action against. Yeah, so I don't want to start going crazy and start getting, I don't want to become a poker bookie and start betting on people, but that would be pretty fun to bet on players or whether or not they're going to win or lose. Gives us just a little an extra incentive to have fun with it. So it looks like Kirk has just really come to play. I don't think Kirk has folded a hand yet. You know, I believe that we can take a look at our numbers here. I'll pull up the numbers here in a moment. We'll take a look at some of the V-pips, some of the wins, losses, see where everybody's at. If I had to guess, Kirk right now is probably number 1 on voluntarily put in pot. Anybody that's unaware, V-pip. Once we pull up those numbers, you'll be able to see what that means. Voluntarily put in pot means that you are voluntarily putting more money into the pot, right? So if you're in the small blind or big blind, that's not voluntary, that's mandatory. You have to put that money into the pot. Now, it doesn't count against your VPIP. It would only count against your VPIP if you're in the small or big blind. And if you're in the small blind, you complete. So say you're in the small blind, nobody raises, and you just call. That would increase your VPIP. But if you folded, it would actually go against your VPIP because you're not putting money into the pot. The same thing with the big blind. If you're in the big blind and everybody checks around, or just calls or whatever, and then you check your option, that doesn't go against your VPIP because you haven't voluntarily put more money in. But let's say that on the opposite side of that, somebody min-raised and you're in the blinds, and now you call, that would increase your VPIP. VPIP is a very important stat in poker because it basically lets us know exactly how much is being played, so on and so forth. So Jake Bishop says, simple life motto, folding is no fun. That's absolutely correct, Jake. Folding is no fun, although it's also not very profitable either. You got to get in there. You got to splash around. So we're going to see Sharon here just continue sharing things with her lovely, colorful sweater. So let's take a look at these numbers here if I'm able to pull them up real quick. Let's take a look at our stacks. This was having an issue the last time we were working with it. So looks like Sharon's sitting on 230 big blinds currently. That is very impressive. Mama J is going to come up the bottom, 29 big blinds. Not terrible. We'll pull up our VPIP here. Again, that's our voluntarily put in pot. Went away. We'll pull that up real quick before this hand starts. Take a look at it. Yeah, so Kirk and Sharon are tied at 78%. Raise is at 10%. Also, that's all, we don't want to judge them too quick because, we've only been playing for a little while, but 10% is pretty low, but there's been a lot of action in front of him, and Raise is an incredibly solid player, so he knows he just needs to wait for his spot. No reason to go crazy in the early levels. A lot of people will do that. Okay, so it looks like we are going to go 4 ways. Okay, so we got a fold from Greg in the non-seat. Flop's going to come 2 5s with a 6. So Steven probably feels the most comfortable with open-ended. Mama J has a backdoor flush draw and she has a gutter. Kirk is firing out. See, this is a position where I think that Mama J would probably be better off just calling with, and this is why we need to be aware of our table dynamics, is that Kirk has basically played every single hand. And when the flop comes 5-5-6, paired board, and we have a fire out, it's probably not likely that he's got it, but in this particular case we see he does. I would expect him to throw out a very thin value bet. Okay, 400 is incredibly thin, but he's going to get Steven to bluff all in, and he's going to get snap called. There's just no way Kirk, based on the way he's played. Let's see what he does here. I'm assuming that he's just going to call in hopes that he's chopping, and Steven's going to get the bad news. Yeah, so that's kind of the upside of playing like a maniac sometimes, is that you are more likely to have opponents bluff into you. I think that's just one of those situations where we just need to check. I mean, it's just, it's even likely our opponent could have a 5 or a 6 or something in that range, and is just never going to fold. And we've seen our opponent, although we've seen his cards, and I know the players really haven't, but we just need to be aware of the table dynamics, who's calling every hand, who's folding every hand. Just need to have more situational awareness. Let's see here. Take a look at our chat. Jesse James Yoder, you lost me on the 8-6 off out of position. Okay. I don't know. Are we talking about a certain hand? I'm going to be honest, my memory only goes back about 12 minutes. So we're going to go to this flop, though, 3 ways. Jesus up in front. Flop 3 spades. Jesus with the second nut flush draw. Or I guess actually we can say the third nut flush draw, because, of course, the nut flush draw currently would be 5-6 of spades, followed by the ace. Sharon, I'm assuming, is just going to try to outplay her opponents. I think she kind of realizes that Kirk is a little bit aggressive. Now let's see what Jesus does. Just immediately checks, and he's going to find himself in a weird spot because he's just going to call. And Sharon's just going to have to fire this river. Let's see if she's got the heart to do it. It looks like she does. Let's see what she does here. Great bet by Sharon. It kind of felt like our opponent was on a draw, maybe an 8. I know she doesn't really like seeing the ace, but once I think we get a check call there on the turn, I believe that an ace of spades is really no longer in our opponent's range. I only say that because typically we should be seeing more money go into the pot. I mean, you essentially block the flush. There's an ace out there. I'm saying if we have the ace. So there should be a lot more money put in if our opponent has an ace, and I just don't think that was the case. It kind of felt like exactly what it was. Maybe like king 8 or something. King of spades, top pair. Got a couple ace 10s. Looks like we had another ace fold. It's all starting to come together here. Let's see what this action is. Flop's going to come out queen high with 2 clubs. Got a gutter. Got middle pair. We got 2 overs. Well, 1 over. Backdoor flush draw. Sharon, of course, doesn't really see a hand that she doesn't like. This is going to be a great game with the players, because a lot of these players just like to splash around. We're going to see the Jack 9 go ahead and take the lead on the turn, although he can't really know that, but he is going to go ahead and betting lead. Is a draw. And oh my goodness. So unfortunately, Sharon's not going to get any money. And I was completely wrong about that. She just got floated with ace 10 all the way down and got instantly paid by a jack. So I want to say Jesus most likely put his opponent on clubs. That's kind of what it feels like there. Like based on the way she was playing, it felt like clubs. And I think that maybe he just thought that he had a good bluff catcher, when in reality, he did not. You don't really want to be bluff catching with second pair. In certain situations, I understand it, but sometimes we just need to let our hands go. Sometimes our players get a little bit sticky. Not that anything's wrong with being sticky, but we just don't want to give away a lot of money. Now we see Ray's here with the aces, so he's finally going to wake up. Sharon just going to get in there under the gun with queen 8 offsuit. Ray's going to go ahead and raise it up. Ray's doing Ray's things. Covert with a very lovely 10 jack suited. Let's see what he does here. I assume he just calls. And he doesn't. He makes a terrible mistake of raising with the jack 10 suited. Not that it's bad. Obviously, jack 10 is very lovely suited hand. But that's going to allow Snowman to get in there. Kirk, who never folds, is going to look at 9-7. He's got some connectors he's going to call. Jesus is going to get out. Sharon. Mama J's out. Sharon almost never folds. So let's see what she does here. Let's see if she gets sticky. I think she's going to call thinking that it's going to close the action, but she's going to get the bad news real quick that Raise is going to go ahead and raise that up. Raise is coming with the 4-bet, and if I had to guess, our opponent made it 2,400. He's going to go for value here. He's got 38,000. I would see about 7,500. See what he says here. I like about 75, 8,500. Let's keep our opponents in there and make mistakes. You don't want to raise them out. Maybe 10,000. I like 10,000 personally. Because we want to let... Yep, and Raise does exactly that. Good bet by Raise. See, like what a lot of mistakes that a lot of players make is when we have aces and then we get raised, we just try to bet as big as possible to try to just build the pot. And I think that's just a terrible, terrible mistake. And see, this is why we don't do that. Because it gives Snowman a potential to just go all in. And Raise is absolutely loving it, and he is going to snap call. And unless he gets... This camera seems to be a tad bit off. Let's see if there's any hearts or straight draws out there. No, he's just basically going to be drawing dead. And, yeah, dude next to him is upset because he went crazy with the Jack-10 of diamonds. And see, you know, if he would have saw that flop, he would have been all in with a pair and a flush draw. It looks like it actually was on the turn, but he would have called anyway, so... Great play by Ray. Again, I see it far too many times where, you know, we'll say the blinds are 1 in 200. You know, there's a limp. Pocket aces makes it like 600. Somebody 3-bets to, you know, 2,000. And then the next thing you know, aces is making it like 12,000, 15,000. And almost 100% of the time your opponents fold to too large of a bet. We'll notice Raise there basically just went with 4x. Because as long as he gets one call there, it's an amazing play. So good play by Raise. Unfortunate that his opponent ran into the one hand he didn't want to see him had. He'd love to see his opponent have kings there, but unfortunately when he wakes up with aces, he knows that if he doesn't hit a straight or a flush, he's going to be eliminated. So we got a question here from Captain Furley. Did we lose audio, or is that just me? I don't know, my man. I can hear the table on my end. I did a mic check earlier, and people said that they could, in fact, hear me. So it could be your end. But if anybody else is in the chat and can still hear me, let me know, just to make sure that we didn't actually lose audio. That would be awful. Looks like Mama J has shipped it with Ace King suited. Covert has also shipped it. And Kirk is thinking about it. Kirk, you have Ace Jack. Have you not looked at your hand? Have you looked at the other hands that you've played? Ace Jack is basically what's higher than pocket aces. He folds. Excellent fold. Kirk, I didn't think I had it in you, but you made an excellent fold there. Although this is typically the spot where the Jack does in fact hit. Okay, it looks like Chuck Murray says I can hear. So, yeah, Captain, it might just be you. You need a 5 and a 5 only? No. So, he makes a great fold. He would have lost the top two pair there. So, excellent fold there. I know it's difficult folding Ace Jack. You got two people ahead of you all in. You feel like you can win a monster pot. Just sometimes we just got to make those folds. Folding is the hardest thing in poker to do. Generally speaking, most players will just get bored or want to splash around, but a lot of the time, poker, the best players in the world are just the ones that are folding consistently. Okay, so let's take a look here. It says Chuck can hear, Allison can hear, Santo says saggy boobies? Or are those eyes? I don't know what those are, Santos. And then Captain Furley says he got it back, thanks. Yeah, no problem, Captain. Glad you can hear us. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. This is our special edition Friday night live stream. It's a little bit different. We're offering a sit and go tournament. First one that we're doing here. That's, again, here at Club JAQK on our live stream. Typically, we'll be offering a cash game on Friday nights, but we wanted to mix it up. We wanted to mix it up a little bit tonight. It's actually really interesting because I love tournament play. It's how I got started playing poker. Well, technically, I got started playing poker with my grandma playing for pennies, nickels, and dimes with a 5-card draw, rummy, spades, all that stuff on the kitchen table growing up, 5, 6 years old. But my actual first introduction to Texas Hold'em was in 2002. It was the year before Moneymaker won the World Series. And this was back when, I want to say Party Poker was still the main website. I remember playing on Party Poker and playing little cheap buy-ins, little $2, $5 tournaments. Still wish they had that option, but here we are 25 years later, almost. Still playing these smaller tournaments. This one's 100. It's not, nothing to shrug at, but also not a high roller. It's a little bit more player friendly. A little fun game. So it looks like we're all in here. Jesus. I don't want to make any puns, but Jesus is praying to his father that he hits a king or a queen. And he does exactly that. He hits he hits both of them. He's going to need to avoid the ace, the 5, or the 10. And he does. So Jesus, no pun intended, back from the dead, is ready to make a run. Going there for other things anyway, so yeah, it is what it is. But again, thanks so much for joining us here on this Friday night. It's January the 12th. Happy New Year to everybody. I want to say Larry David says that it's 2 weeks that you can't say Happy New Year, but any of our Curb Your Enthusiasm fans out there. But again, thanks for joining us here. We're out here at 165 Outer Loop. That's 40214 here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're Louisville's only poker social club. Basically, if you want to play poker anywhere around here outside of your local home game, you'd have to travel out of the state. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just be sure to visit us at clubjackpoker.net. We also are on all the social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, whatever else is out there. And if you want to look at live tables or get some information, you can also visit us on clubjackpoker.net and on pokeratlas.com and the Poker Atlas app. So it looks like Ray is going to fire out, and Sharon if she has a backdoor draw, she's going to continue. So I think this is a spot here, especially for Rays. Yeah, see, Sharon's just hyper aggressive, so Rays, I feel like, can't fold here. I mean, you've got open-ended, you've got the flush draw. I know Sharon's been hyper aggressive, but this could also be a situation where Sharon just turned to 10 and just doesn't think you have a jack. Ray's probably going to have to fold here, but this would be an incredible call. He's still ahead of a lot of draws. But Sharon is just a very aggressive player. She's going to get in there and she's going to fight for every chip. And, that's just what you have to do in tournaments. You just have to get all the chips. You got to get them one way or the other. She takes the aggressive approach. So it looks like Covert's going to go ahead and get it all in again. I really can't see anybody except for Sharon Collins. She's going to snap call. Covert's going to realize that he has the best hand and just needs to hold up. But Sharon's, she's been ruthless so far. She's been pushing the action. We'll take a look at the chips here in a moment, but she has got to be just absolutely monster stacked compared to the field right now. She's basically won every hand, and unfortunately for her, she's not going to win this hand. She finally ends up losing one, although very, very small. So let's take a look at our stacks here, see where everybody's sitting at. Looks like Sharon on 109,000. That's 182 big blinds. That's pretty impressive. That's almost, was that 70% of the field? 70% of the chips in play? No, a little less than that. I'm terrible at math. 60, 70, 80, 20, 40, 60, 90, 1. Yeah, so she's got about like 40% of the chips in play right now. 35, 40%. That's pretty impressive at this stage of the tournament. She's just got to keep up the aggression. She's played well. She's got lucky, and that's all you could really ask for when you're playing tournament poker. Kirk is going to continue his aggression. Flop's going to come ace 5-3, so whoever has the most heart is going to win this hand. And it looks like it might be Kirk unless Greg gets a little spicy, but Greg seems a little bit conservative, so looks like we got 26 viewers in the chat. Again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight on this cold, windy January 12th. The weather here locally in Louisville is supposed to get a lot worse next week, so be prepared for it to get really, really cold. Supposedly it's supposed to be in the single digits next week, so be sure to bundle up. If you have children, pets, make sure that they're bundled up as well. Don't want the little ones to freeze. Don't worry about me, though. I can take care of myself. So we see Jesus here raise it up to 1.6K. It's a pretty solid bet. About 10% of the stack almost. Mama J is going to go ahead and 3-bet that up to 3.5K. And we have an insta all-in from Jesus. We don't know if this will be his last supper or not. But Mama J's got a tough decision to make. I think that we just have to call here. I mean, I know our opponent bet, we raised, and now he's all in, but I think we just need to hope that our opponent has like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, or something like that, and we have the best hand by a small margin. I know we have Kirk behind, but I'm just not worried about Kirk at all. I'm just worried that my opponent that raised and then went all in might have nines plus, which is very possible. Now, Kirk, based on his play, might gamble here. I know it sounds crazy, but 4-5 suited is pretty nice. Is he calling? No, he's folding. So good fold by Kirk. I know it's tough with the 5 high. Bet, raise, call, re-raise, all in front of you with the 5 high, but flop comes ace deuce 6, and 4-5 would have got there. He is salty. You can see it on his face. Jesus, unfortunately, was betrayed by Judah. Ran into the 8s when he thought he was safe. Unfortunately, he was not. Kurt, realizing that he should have gambled there, thought he was going to gamble, but he's not. Let's see who our most aggressive players are. Obviously, Kirk, Jesus, Mama J, Sharon. I'm surprised Sharon's not a little bit higher than that. Let's take a look at our VPIP now. 83%. A staggering 83%. That's impressive. At a single table for you to play 80%, I mean, you're basically just never folding. I do apologize for our stream. The color is off just a little bit. You can see that some of our players look a little bit more pale than what they would normally look. Of course, that's not what they actually look like. Like, Jesus is not that pale. He's from the Middle East, so he's a little bit darker. So we're going to go heads up with Kirk and Steven. And Steven is going to insta-call this. And poor Kirk is going to get the bad news that he's up against a set. Yeah, Steven is also not that pale in real life. It's just, unfortunately, the camera lighting is pretty strong. Yep, King Queen's just instantly drawing dead, so... Yeah, basically Steven is blending in with his shirt, and I mean, he's almost invisible at this point. Yeah, Steven basically looks like Ghost. He looks like Patrick Swayze trying to holler at Demi Moore. You need to start getting some sun, my man. You're way too pale. But no, that's our lighting. That's our lighting, and that's our camera. Our cameras, for some reason, aren't set to the highest setting. I'm not sure why that is. I don't think that's something that I'm going to be able to change. I think that we would have to turn off the live stream in order to do that. So it's not something that's a huge issue right now. We'll worry about that later. But like, I know some of these colors are a lot darker, and it's just a little bit off, but not a huge issue. So it looks like we're probably going to have just an insta all-in again. I mean, if I'm Jesus, I'm just shipping it. There's really no reason not to ship it. You're just basically putting in half your stack right now. And we're going to give Mama J a chance to either get in there or raise. But I think that's why if we just have an opponent when the blinds are 4-8-8 going all in for 8,000, we just go all in with ace jack suited. I don't think that there's any reason that we just call. Not that it's a bad play, but I just don't want to give my opponent in the big blind any kind of chance to see a cheap flop, because if they have a pair there, or like an ace 10 or something like that, they're going to call, and you're just going to get yourself in trouble. So unfortunately for Kirk, he is out. Jesus is going to win that hand. I heard rebuy be called, so we'll see what's going on with that exactly. So we got a comment here from Captain Furley. Everyone is white. Get some color in that room. Yeah, I could probably make some racist jokes right now, but I won't do that. I know they're a little bit whiter than normal. Some of these people do have a little bit darker of a complexion. It's just our lighting is off just a tad bit. But yeah, I mean, we could definitely use a more diverse crowd. That's definitely something that's always welcome. Santos says, I promise you Steven is pale like that in person. Yeah, he is. He's not this pale. I am also incredibly pale. I am anti-sun. I get no sun whatsoever. So I would probably be even worse right now. So I don't want to judge him too hard. But, He kind of looks like the dude from the movie Powder. He looks like the dude from the movie Powder, but with a beard. So we're going to go to this flop 4 ways. Flop's going to come ace high, giving Kirk an ace. Based on his reputation, he should do nothing but bet because it just looks weak. But unfortunately, unless Sharon wants to try to outplay somebody again, it's just going to be a fold. And I think that Greg could potentially float one here. I wouldn't actually mind it with the 9 of diamonds out there because there's going to be a lot of turn cards that give you additional equity. But he's just going to think better of it and continue to play pretty tight. If I had to assume, he's probably got one of the lowest VPIPs. But let's take a look at it. Raises down there at 12%, and Greg with 15%, Steven at 24%. All the way up to top, Kirk on 84%, followed by Sharon and Jesus with 63 and 42 respectively. Mama J, Snowman, Covert, Steven, that's about the range that I like to be at. Because if you get too crazy, you just won't get any respect. If you play too tight, people will run over you. You want to kind of find that right balance of folding and raising. I think like 30 to 40% is really, really good number. So we got Steven flopping open-ended, Jesus with bottom pair and a backdoor straight draw. Jesus is going to decide to stick around. Did a lot of eye movement there, trying to figure out a good bet to make. He's lucky his opponent really didn't have much to continue with. Typically, when you start to see those eye movements, in my mind, at least in my experience, it kind of feels like sometimes you're trying to figure out a way to get your opponent to fold. How much do I got to bet to make him fold? You're not really thinking about equity. Trying to get your opponent to call. We want to be mindful of that. We want to be mindful of all the things that we do during the hand. You'll notice, in particular, especially with me, I watch the streams, every week, and I get to see the players' cards, as you all do as well. And you'll notice that sometimes when people have made hands, that they play it differently than when they're drawing. And that's the last thing you want to do, because your opponents will be able to pick up on that, and we don't want to give our opponents any free information. So here we're going to pick back up in this next hand with Kirk going crazy with the 6-7 suited. Raising it up. Getting a couple of calls. Looks like we're going to go 4-way with... No, we're going to go 3-way. With really, I guess, ace-9 being the best hand. Flops king high. Mama J's going to get out of there. Sharon never folds. Kirk now a 2-pair. I mean, I just don't see how Sharon can continue here. One thing we need to make a note of is basically if Sharon's in the hand, she's not going to fold on the flop. So if she's in there, she's going to continue at least to the turn. She wants to just make sure that none of her draws come out. And that's always ingredient to a good game. It's just people that just never fold hands. That's why I always like going with relatively small bets. It's because it just ensures that the players are going to just call, never fold. Now, of course, you might say, Tom, won't that get me in trouble if I'm betting small all the time? Yeah, it will. Sometimes betting small allows your opponent to get in there and hit runners. But you got to think, if we bet big on the flop, generally our opponents won't continue anyways, right? So we get zero value. So I guess it becomes a mindset of, would you rather have zero value now or the potential for value later? And I'm just always going to go with the potential. We're probably not too far from our first break. If I had to guess, we're probably about 20 minutes away from our first break. I'm not sure how they do the breaks on this. It's probably only 15 minutes if I had to guess. Let's see if I can find some information about that real quick. Let's see here. No information as far as the breaks, but either way, we'll figure it out. Let's see here. John Ross. I'm 20 today. Is my birthday. I'm from Canada. Well, thanks so much, John Ross, for joining us all the way up in Canada. Happy birthday to you. I remember turning 20 14 years ago. Like 18 years ago. You are still a baby. Enjoy your life while you can. It only gets worse. Sometimes it gets better, but for the majority of us, it just gets worse. I wish I could go back 20 years. That'd be great. Let's see here. Running gun 502. They gonna have any more of these tonight? You know, running gun, I am not sure. I think the original plan was to do the sit and go tournaments and then to start the live stream cash game immediately afterwards. I just think that they didn't really take into account the amount of chips that are in play right now. Basically everybody's monster stacked. And, when we take a look at the stacks and look at the blinds, typically you're only short stacked if you've got about 10 to 15 big blinds. But as we can see here, 125, 80, 50, almost 50, 40, almost 40, 20. So there's still a lot of chips left to play. I'm not sure how they're going to do it tonight. I mean, it's possible that this live stream for the sit and go tournament could go on at least for another 2-3 hours. It's very possible. So I'm not sure what they're going to do tonight. They wanted to do the cash game stream after this. I'm not sure if that'll happen or not. I haven't heard any word. But as far as the sit and go tournaments and streams, I think they're trying to really mix and match how they're doing it. Instead of having just like the same thing over and over and over again, I think they're trying to expand into different formats of poker. So they were kind of wanting to test this out tonight. Let's take a look at this board real quick. We got Jesus with middle pair, Kirk with the same, Greg with an under pair. So Jesus is going to take the initiative. Or you could say Jesus took the wheel and let out. Going to go check with an ace on the river. So hopefully Kirk doesn't fire out here because he's going to get the bad news. Even the draws that were potential got there. Queen 10's got there. So I think Kirk can make an easy lay down here. See here, Chuck. I like the variety. Running gun. No way this will be over. Hour and a half tops. Ray's going to take this down. Yeah, this could easily go over an hour and a half. Just the amount of chips in play. I know it's 15-minute levels, but it just depends. It depends on how people play. Based on the way I've seen play so far, it's pretty loose. And we also do have to remember that there is an optional add-on. You can get a $20 add-on at the end of level 8, which should be coming up. Level 8 should be coming up. But you get 30,000 more chips for the add-on. So, if everybody's staying, we're talking about what? 270,000 more chips coming into play? So that's a lot of chips in play. Yeah, $20. Yeah, $20 for 30K. If there's 9 people at the table, it's 270,000 in chips on top of the amount of chips that are already on the table. So it's gonna be a long one. If I had to guess, like I said, I mean it's possible that depending on the action, that this tournament could easily go till 10 o'clock minimum. And I don't know. Typically, our live streams do end at about midnight, so I'm not sure if they're going to want to do a cash game live stream for only 2 hours, but it's possible. As long as I'm getting paid, I'll do it. But yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the variety, I also like the variety, Chuck. Too many times do we just see the standard, stream of a cash game, but I like being able to mix it up like this because it shows you different varieties of poker and how we should play and think about the game. We notice that in tournaments compared to cash games, there's a lot different of a strategy. As we see Sharon here, it looks like she's bumping it up with the 6-7 suited. I do like that. Raise is going to give her the bad news that he's going to raise that. Covert's going to look at his hand, realize it sucks. He's going to fold. Steven now with the King 9 suited. It's going to make an excellent fold. Sometimes players get sticky with the King 9 suited. Jesus. What does Jesus do with the King Jack here? I mean, this would be a great fold, but sometimes it's pretty difficult when we're in the big blind. We're committed. We got some money out there already. There's a big blind ante. So I actually wouldn't shame him for calling. And Raise is going to have the lead going 3 ways to this flop. Hoping to avoid a jack, hoping to avoid diamonds. Really just wants to go ahead and flop an ace, get it over with. Sharon's going to hit that 7. So I think what we're going to see here is Jesus bets. Or excuse me, I was going to say Jesus checks. Looks like Sharon's going to take the lead here. How much did she bet? 5,000? 2K? So what does Raise do here? Raise has a blocker. He's got the club. I think I like the call. Under the gun +1 is now firing out. We've got the club again. Looks like she's betting 5K if I had to see that correctly. I think Raise should probably just be putting his opponent on 1 pair. Sharon's a wild card. I think any ace, king, or club is going to win the hand for me personally. That's just what I would be thinking in my mind. I don't expect him to raise. You don't want to turn down your equity. You got 40% equity. You need to realize that. We'll see what this river is. It's a club. It's a club. But it's an interesting club. We've got 7, 8, 9, 10 of clubs. It looks like we're just going to go check, and then Raise is going to take down that pot. So good play by Raise. Again, you don't want to get too crazy. When we have 40% equity, of course he can't know that, but when we have 40% equity, we just don't want to just overinflate the pot. I mean, we've already seen it a couple of times where players have got a little bit cavalier with their flush draws, and there's just really no need for it. You just put yourself in bad situations, and in that particular spot, I like how Raise played the hand. Just let your opponent bet. You know what your equity is. There's no reason to raise. Well played. I sure do hope they have a food option tonight, because I have not ate all day. I am starving. I feel like I'm dying. So it looks like 2 ways. Raise a little bit dominated, but he does have a lovely suited connector there. And This is going to be a good spot for Rays to continue if he's going to continue telling his story. I feel like with a 7.8K pot, I think we should bet about 25 to 30%. So probably about 2,000 to 2,500. Let's see what Rays chose. 2,000, yep. Again, this is a spot that you don't have to go crazy. You know, there's no reason to bet big. Make it look like a value hand. Because Rays range could easily include a queen there. Good bet. Takes it down. So we're quickly approaching the first break. I'm not sure how long that first break's going to be. If I had to guess, probably about 10 minutes. Looks like we're going to have an all-in from COVID. It's probably going to get it all in as well. Snowman makes a great fold. Spewing money. Although it's actually going to be a great spot for her because her opponents are sharing cards. So I just don't think you can make this call. Yeah, it's going to be a good fold, Sharon. I know you want to get in there, splash around. You probably would have won the hand anyways, but we're just gambling at that point. You've already played well. You've played aggressive. There's just really no reason to do that other than just wanting to gamble. So let's see what comes out here. Oh, so Covert is just going to go ahead and instantly take that down. Has the opponent drawing dead on the flop. Flops the nuts. Terminator needs to be extremely happy that she folded that hand because she would have got extremely excited for just a half a moment, realizing that she flopped a flush. But then when she took a glance over at her opponent's cards, she would have realized that she had the second best hand. So good fold. Actually, I wouldn't even say that's a good fold. I would say that's an absolute standard fold. The whole chip shuffle, thinking about it, that was kind of a waste of time. Queen 8 suited. Maybe if the dude doubled the big blind, you could sit there and think about it and do a little chip shuffle. But once somebody's all in for almost 40,000, that's just not a hand that we need to think about any longer. I think for 40,000, hands like Ace 10 suited are an insta-muck. King Queen suited, maybe think about it, but I'm going to say those are an insta-muck as well. We're going to see Greg finally get in there, splash around with the Queen 10 suited. I think we need to be raising these hands, though. I don't think that we should ever be limping. I think we should be raising. So we got some decent hands there. Sharon has got the blocker to raise his hand. Greg's going to get out of there. Raise is up there, raising it up. I like it. I think he senses dead money out there. A lot of people wanted to limp. It's a good spot to go ahead and raise. And he's going to go ahead and take that down. That's a good bet by Rays. I think he just realizes that my opponents are a little bit loose. They're wanting to see cheap flops. I have a pocket pair. Most of the time when I check my option and then see the flop, my pocket pair is going to be third pair. So he makes a stout bet to get everybody out, and he takes it down. Let's see, Warzone here. She would have won, though. Yeah, I guess she wins the side pot, but really, though, I mean, I understand that you've seen calling with less, but man, that is just such a gamble there. But, if you got a lot of chips and you feel lucky and you want to gamble, by all means, get in there and splash some money around. And it looks like we have a absolutely huge bet from Mama J with pocket kings. Gets everybody to fold. Again, I know we have strong hands, but when there's basically just limping action, I mean, 6,000 is a little stout. It's a little bit stout at this particular level, especially with a couple of limps in there. People trying to see cheap flops. I know we just saw Rays do the exact same thing on the big blinds with the pocket fives. But I think what we do is when we have hands like that where we just know we're absolutely in the lead, I think 6,000 is a little too stout. I think we make it to about 45 to 5,000. So roughly about 5, a little bit, about 4 to 4.5x ish. Ensure the calls, and then we let our opponents make mistakes. That's how we make money in the game, is we let our opponents make mistakes. So let's see what happens here. We had Mama raise it up on the hijack. Sharon, 3 bets to 6K. So you'll notice there that the 3 bet is to 6K. A little bit more solid there when there's a 3 bet, but when it's just an open raise, gotta get you in trouble. So obviously Steven's gonna go ahead and check his 6s there. They're never basically ever gonna be any good. Mama J's got a gutter. And then Sharon's got top kicker, backdoor, not flush draw. And she is going to fire out 35,000. So, I mean, she's obviously going to get 2 folds here. I don't know what Steven's thinking about. There's really nothing to think about here. I guess we're just wanting to get some TV time. But Burrow, I mean, we can barely see you. No, there's got to be something wrong here. Calling with 6s? There's just no way he has 6s. We've got to have this read wrong. This would be one of the worst all-ins of all time. Let's just see what it is. It's got to be a misread. Yeah, Sharon's going to call. Let's see what happens here. It's got to be a misread. He did have 6s. So I'm assuming that he just thought his opponent was bluffing. Yeah, so I assume that he probably just thought that she was full of it. She's made some pretty crazy plays so far. But man, 6s is super optimistic. I mean, even if she has bottom pair there, you're still crushed. So I don't like the 6s play. Yeah, you know, I just can't support that play there with the 6s. I try to be optimistic in what people are thinking, but I mean, the only thing that you can really explain there as that being is just, I think he just thought that his opponent was straight bluffing and had very little equity. Because even in boards where she has 2 overs and a gutter, like against pocket 6s, if you ask me personally, I'm going to take the 2 overs and the gutter all day long, because they could even still hit runner 2 pair and counterfeit you. So yeah, I felt like we could have just saved our money there and invested it in a little bit better spot with better equity. So I'm not 100%, but this might be the last level before break. Not sure. So this is a just here in the chat here, as we see Sharon all in with. Is this right? Queen 3 got called. What is going on? Oh, okay. I missed. I was reading the comments. The flop is already out. I was like, what is going on? Sharon again with the Queen 3. Has Mama J just dire straits. Needs an 8 or a 9. Unfortunately doesn't. And Terminator just continues terminating. But back to your question, running gun. So this is a single table shootout. However, they do offer rebuys for the table only. So I want to say, I don't know if it was unlimited before the first break. Now, let me see if I can find some information on it, because I had a couple of questions about it, but nobody really filled me in on anything. Okay, so here we go. So it says 2 rebuys per player for $40. So if you get busted, you can buy back in 40 of it. Will get you, I guess, the same chip stack, 20,000 in chips. And then at the end of the level 8, which I want to say we're on level 8 right now. It doesn't actually say what level we're on. Yeah, so this isn't like a standard. I think that's where your confusion might have came in. This isn't a standard shootout tournament. It's they got rebuys and add-ons. So that's why I was wondering. I think that this the live stream for the cash game tonight's probably just going to be canceled, because I would expect that this thing to last for quite some time. Even with 15-minute levels, it's still going to go on for a while. So let's see here. I got Rays doing what he does best, raising it on up with the ace-king suited. Snowman is all in for less. It's kind of hard to tell. Sorry, our graphics are a little bit off. A little bit hard to see. Yeah, Sharon is definitely killing it. Jesus is not. One could say that Jesus has been crucified since he's been at this table. Sharon has been laying the whip down, if you know what I'm saying. Flop's going to go ahead and come out ace high. Greg with the gut shot royal flush draw. Raise top pair, top kicker. Snowman top pair. Sharon has bottom pair. Knowing her, she's going to splash around. Snowman is all in pre. It looks like Greg is getting all in now. Sharon finally releases, and Rays is going to have to avoid all the 10s, all the diamonds, and all the kings. Can he do it? He's got a nice little bit of equity right now. Obviously 54%, pretty solid. He's going to want to see the deuce of clubs on the turn. And he does it. So ace king is going to eliminate 2 players. I believe he had both of them covered. They will have the option to rebuy. Rays wins a nice hand. Let's take a look at here. John, how you doing, John? Good to see you here in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Would have played this, but it started at 5. Make it 6, and I would have been in. Yeah, John, this is the first time that they're doing this, so I could definitely see changes in the future. I think they were just wanting to test the waters with something new, try to get some new people into the live stream, so that way it's you don't have to bring a fortune to come up here and make it on the live stream. I think they just wanted to make it a little bit open to everybody. As far as the timing goes, I think they would be willing to work on that, really just depending on how late this goes tonight. I don't think they were really aware of how many chips are actually in play. There's been a lot of people complaining on Facebook about chips and such. Like, oh, well, at the World Series of Poker main event, you get 60,000 in chips with 2-hour levels. Why don't we have something like that? And I'm like, so in this little daily $50 plus 5 tournament, you want to play like hour-long levels? Like, no, dude, we're going to give you all a little bit of time to play. Generally speaking, even at the boat or any other casino, they'll let you all play for 2 hours, let you have your fun, and then you better start getting it all in or playing aggressive. But this is a little bit different again. You started with 20,000 in chips, I believe, and then there's an add-on for an additional 30,000, so there's going to be quite a bit of money on the table. Quite a bit of chips. See my man here with the Windy City shirt. I went to Chicago about a month ago. Totally regretted it. It's just freezing. Couldn't imagine going up there right now. How cold it is here. I can only imagine how cold it is there. Got a question from Garrett Thibodeau, I believe it's pronounced. Is it Thibodeau or Thibodeau? Any cash games going or just tourneys? Let me take a look. I'll look out the door real quick. I know they had one cash game going. Looks like they've moved up to 2 different cash games. There might be another tournament, but I think that's a cash game. Yeah, I'm not 100%. Don't quote me on it, but I want to say that we have 2 cash games and the sit and go tournament currently. If you want to find out more information on it, I can't leave right now to go out there and ask, but feel free to visit pokeratlas.com or the Poker Atlas app, and they'll actually give you a full-on breakdown of what we got. So we see here an all-in Kirk with finally a premium hand. Ace Queen of Clubs is going to run up against the King Jack. He's going to need to catch a King of Jack that's not a club, and he does not. So Kirk finally is going to win that monster hand. He's winning big. He's happy. See, I like the format. Gives everyone a chance to play. Chuck, yeah, I actually agree with that. The last thing that we want to do, I believe personally, is alienate the people that don't necessarily have the funds or want to gamble that much on some of the live stream games. You'll notice on the live stream games that there is thousands of dollars on the table, and some people just, that's not necessarily in their budget, or maybe they just don't feel comfortable playing for that much. I've known people that have been excellent poker players but have never really wanted to go outside of the 1-2 or the 1-3 range, just for the fact that it's just more comfortable for them at that level. And I think that it's best that we allow multiple people chances to play on the live stream without having to have thousands of dollars in cash on them. And I think that's kind of what the reasoning behind this was it's a little friendly $100 tournament. Of course, there's a couple of rebuys for like $40, but generally speaking, if you get knocked out of this tournament, as opposed to one that costs a couple $100, you're probably not going to be that upset. So I like it. I know that they've actually talked about doing other different live streams as well, such as just like 1-3s, maybe like a 1-3 mandatory straddle, possibly like a limit game. Not low limit, like 2-4 limits, but maybe like a 5-10 limit game would be fun. But they're wanting to mix it up and match it up and make sure that all of the guests and players here get to have some fun with it as well. Mike Cox, has the live stream cash game been canceled? It's not. Yeah, Thibodeau. Yeah, I thought that was it. Thibodeau. It has not been canceled. It's been postponed. Typically, we would be starting right about now at 7 p.m., but they decided that for today that we were going to be doing a sit-and-go tournament. Just wanted to mix it up. Just have a different format for this week just to see what it was like. Seems like we've had a nice little turnout, though. We've got 35 viewers currently. We've had people with us all day long, so looks like people are enjoying it. Yeah, Troy Wilson here. Definitely a good move, Club Jack. Everyone deserves a shot at playing on the live stream without the buy-in being 500. Totally agree with that. Again, most people that come and play poker, I mean, obviously you have your full-fledged poker players that have a specific bankroll for it and such. But most of the time, the average player only has an allotted amount that they're willing to gamble, maybe per paycheck even, right? So maybe like, I'm going to take my one shot for $300, and then if I don't, then I'll be back in 2 weeks. And we need to allow those people to have a opportunity to play in live stream cash games, because it's fun to go back home and watch it, or maybe you can share it with your friends or family and say, "Hey, check it out! I'm on TV. And if you want to watch me play poker, watch this." And it's really hard to do that when basically the straddles are $10, the minimum raises are like $35, and if you've only got about $300 every 2 weeks to play with, that's just not something that's feasible for you. So I believe personally that mixing it up with not just 5-5 cash games, but like 1-3s and tournaments like this just opens up to a much larger portion of the community and gets people excited to play. And it's better for business. You don't want to become known as the club that only goes for the high rollers. You want to be able to accommodate to all the different players, make sure that everybody's having a good time. Stay here, Mike Cox. Thanks. Any estimation for starting? Starting what? Oh, for the cash game. Gotcha. Yeah, man, that's a good question, because honestly, I think they kind of overplayed their hand with this sit and go, because there's so many chips in play. And then once we have arrived to our first break, which should be soon, I'm not sure exactly when it is, but they have an additional add-on for $20, gets you 30,000 in chips. So, if we're still at a table of 9 players, we're going to see another 270,000 come into play. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, we got an all in here. You were only allowed a maximum of 2 entries, or two rebuys rather. You have your 1 entry and 2 rebuys. So there has already been quite a few rebuys at this table so far. So I would expect that there to be quite a hefty amount of chips in play at the end of this. Man, and like I said, it's possible that the cash game might not even go tonight, because if this tournament's going to last past, it's currently 7:10 right now. Man, if this goes on for like another 2.5 hours, I just don't think that the cash game would go tonight, and I think they're just going to reschedule that. Possibly do something like, if they're going to do this, maybe to schedule it a little bit early and get the cash game going earlier. Because they generally want that cash game to start at 7 p.m. and then end at midnight. So I don't know if they're going to want to do a cash game stream tonight for only anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. Don't know. But we'll just see how this progresses, and then I can give you more information on that later. Got a comment here from Angela Anderson. Go Jessica. Yes, go Jessica. Good luck. Got people rooting for you here in the chat. Ray Copley says, Terminator doing what the Terminator does. Absolutely. She has literally been terminating everybody so far. We'll take a look at the stacks so far. Haven't looked at it in a moment, so see what everybody's sitting at real quick before we begin this next day. Sharon sitting on 135,000. Very impressive. All the way down to Mama J with only 8 big blinds at 13,500. Looks like Snowman's going to outflop Covert. Sharon in there with nothing, and Covert takes back that lead. So let's see how our players approach this. Looks like we're all playing it pretty passively. And we're just going to give Sharon an opportunity to bluff. I don't expect to see either opponent fold with the gutter. They're both looking for the 10. They both have a pair. So Sharon's drawing dead, but she's got position. And she's going to have to fire out pretty large based on this action. But I think we're going to see Covert maybe go for very thin value here. And he's going to get snap folded, really? Even though he's check folded. Nice, good fold. So let's take a look here. Got another comment from Captain. They are running the same 7 p.m. tournament as yesterday. The final 8 make the live stream like yesterday, so this will be over by then. The regular tourney final table should be at 11 p.m. or so. Cool. Like I said, all I know is that they are about to introduce a ton of chips onto the table whenever this break is, which I feel like is probably should have already came and gone. The blinds are now 1, 2, and 2, so I'm not sure what the blinds are, but they said after 8 levels is when the add-on is. Typically a break is every 2 hours. They started the live stream at 5. They were a little bit delayed in doing so, but I don't remember it being about 15 minutes. Maybe because we were on a 15-minute delay. Yeah, that would make sense. So if I had to guess, this is probably the last level before the break. Don't quote me on that. I've got to get something to eat, get something to drink. Says, Captain, you will be working a double. Can you handle it? No, I cannot. I do not enjoy working. I have not worked officially since July when I was out at the World Series of Poker out in Vegas. I'm trying to keep it that way. I've basically since then just been gambling on fantasy football, playing poker, and doing commentating. So I've been living life. Doing a double sounds awful. Don't want to do it. Yeah, I was wondering when y'all were going to do that. So it is confirmed. 10-minute break coming up. Ray's Rowell in the chat and in the game. He's multitasking. A blizzy on break in parking lot, locking in. Yeah, I don't know what the word blizzy means. I guess a blizzy is a, air quote, cigarette. It's just what the cool kids call cigarettes these days. As we see here, an all-in, open-ended against top pair. And Mama J hits the straight. Absolutely crucifies Jesus' top pair. Again, Jesus betrayed by the river. Might as well call it Judah. Jesus is off to brighter pastures. Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying, Captain Fairley. So actually, I think what they're doing is, I don't believe that they're going to do it the same way they did it last night. So if, like, last night, for example, they did the final table of that tournament, I think that they're just going to play this all the way through tonight, even through heads up. Don't quote me on that, but that at least is the way that I was led to believe, was that today was going to be the sit and go tournament followed by a potential cash game stream. But honestly, we haven't lost any players yet. We've been playing for over 2 hours. Most people have exhausted their rebuys. Now, I do believe that rebuys will end after that first break as well. But you'll still have your add-on, so again, if all the players are at the table, everybody will be adding on an additional $275,000 collectively, $270,000 collectively on the table. So I could honestly see us being here for quite some time. As we see Snowman all in with the queen 10. He's going to need a queen or a 10, and he needs it now. Does not hit it. Sharon gives a double fist pump. She's on fire. She's terminating. She's collecting chips. Her and her lovely, colorful sweater. And I'm not sure if he has exhausted his rebuys. We're getting to that point now where we've had a couple players. I haven't been keeping track, so I don't know. But let's take a look at our stacks here now. Sharon up top, 100, almost 50,000. Rays is getting in there, 108,000. And one thing I want to show you is why we don't necessarily have to play every hand. Is Rays is at the bottom, Sharon is near the top, and when we look at our stacks, Rays isn't too far from Sharon. So Rays is a very solid, tight, aggressive player. So when he plays, he is very aggressive and he gets this point across. Sharon is aggressive, but she's a little bit more splashy. So, two good players, two different ways to approach the game. You just need to find how you prefer to play. So it looks like Kirk is going to do a nice play here. Make it look like he's bluffing. I love it. And he's getting Sharon to get in there with queen high. Wins a nice hand. Very awesome. So I think we're quickly approaching this. I know they have another 7 p.m. tournament that just started. Maybe that's what's going on out there. I think he said it was almost about 4 tables, though, so... So here, Brad Bishop, hats off. Ever since the management change, he's done his best to give the players what they've asked for. He sure has. Much respect to Brad. Definitely appreciate that. I know that Club Jack had some issues early on. Those were unfortunate. The club itself will continue on and definitely try to provide the players the best poker experience that they have in this area. My money on Rays, one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in the poker community. Yeah, Rays is awesome. Rays is a cool, super cool dude. Somebody I definitely respect watching him play. Let's see how he continues on this hand because we've got some premiums out here. We have Mama J who raised it up. Looks like she made it about 3x. Now, I think 3x is a little bit hefty under the gun. I really do. I think that there's not much of a difference between 2.5 and 3x. And in the long run, I think we just save a little bit more money and get the same information with 2.5x. And then that way, when you get raised, it's a little bit easier to fold. So if you're opening up a min raise or 2.5x, so like in this particular situation, the blinds are 1, 2, 2, I think it's better off to open up for either 4 to about 5,000, 4 to 5,000. And it saves you money and it gives you the exact same information. So here we're going to have Mama J get in there with the ace-10. I think we just have to fold that hand. So Sharon took the lead with ace-queen. Now I think Ray's kind of knows exactly where he's at here. I think we just know that our jack is good, and I think we need to start going for not only value but for some protection. It's very possible that our opponents could have hands like ace-4, ace-2, 8-9, hands like that we just need to go ahead and start charging some value. So Sharon can get a little sticky, but 20.5K is a little bit hefty for 2 overs, when in all reality she only has 1, and she calls, misses, and I think it should just go check. But this bet really doesn't make much sense, 20K. I think Rays is going to sniff this out and just call. It just doesn't make too much sense. A king should almost never be in her range. I think raise at this point is maybe just worried that she has two pair of some kind. Yeah, she made great, excellent call by raise. We got to piece that story together, and it just kind of feels like a bluff. So I think that raise might have took the chip lead right here. Let's take a look here. It looks like we did actually lose our player, so he might have exhausted all of his rebuys. Yeah, so we have raise on top now. 186,000. Sharon, unfortunately, just probably should have played that hand a little bit more passively instead of so aggressively, because it cost her pretty big. The last person I think that you want to put to give any money to would be raise, followed by Jesus, because everywhere I go, people are always asking in Jesus' name that I donate, so I'm not going to do that. Brad is awesome. Keep up the great work. Absolutely, Brad. Brad is doing what he can to make sure that you all are all provided with what you all need. Holy Stone, when you get raised. Yeah, although she didn't really get raised, she kind of raised herself. I mean, she put an exorbitant amount of chips into the pot with basically nothing. So, that's kind of the downside of being aggressive. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Unfortunately, when it doesn't, it'll just kill you. So, here we see Mama J getting it all in with the pocket fives. Looks like that's good enough to take it down. Okay, so I think we might be going on our break now. Yeah, so they're going to go ahead and do their add-on. Again, it's $20 for 30,000 in chips. There is only, I want to say, 8 people left at the game. So that's 240,000 chips. So we're about to introduce 240,000 additional chips into the game. Should get a little spicy. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and take my first break of the day. Let them go ahead and get all this settled. I'll try to make it back on time. If not, I'll let you guys just commentate the action in the chat. Again, thanks for joining us here on Club Jack tonight. Again, you can visit us on clubjackpoker.net. We're also here live at 165 Outer Loop. That's 40214 in Louisville, Kentucky. Any kind of questions, comments, concerns, be sure to visit us on clubjackpoker.net or on any social media platform. Typically, Facebook's going to be the best point to reach us, but hang tight. Go ahead and get y'all a snack, get you something to drink, call a friend, whatever you want to do. We will be back here very, very shortly. Alright, looks like we are back. I'm not sure if I missed a hand or not. Do apologize for that, but I took an extended break just because I felt like it. Oh, if I missed anything, just let me know. We'll catch up on it real quick. Oh, had to go get me a fresh Mountain Dew. My Red Bull is already worn out. Now I got to move on to other sugars. After this hand, we'll take a look at the chip counts, see where everybody's sitting at. Looks like Steven is going to go ahead and bump that up with the ace-10 off. I really like the raise. That's kind of what I'm talking about when we raise, about 1 and 2.5x. That's a good raise. 7,500 blinds, 3,000. Again, no reason to go crazy. So I do like that. Let's take a look at our stacks here now. So after the add-ons, we got Rays up top with 207,000. Sharon right below him, 108,000. Kirk bringing up third place with 82,000, all the way down to the bottom. Last but not least, our Savior, Jesus. Sitting on about 34,000. Nothing better than a cold Mountain Dew out of the can. I think Mountain Dew is better out of the can than it is in a 20-ounce bottle. That's just me rambling, though. Let's take a look at our V-pips now that we're starting to get in a little bit deeper into the tournament. You'll start noticing that the V-pips are probably going to go down a little bit because the blinds are so high at this point. People can't get as loose as they want to be just for the fact that you would just be burning chips. So we see Sharon and Kirk still up top, sharing at about 60% each, all the way down to Greg and Rays and Covert, which is 16, 18, 19% respectively. Again, it just goes to show you that there's different styles of poker that you can play. You can play a tight, aggressive approach like Rays, not play many hands, but still be in the chip lead because you play them correctly and aggressively. And then we have players like Sharon, who are a little bit more splashy, a little bit more aggressive, but also still a nice chip stack. Unfortunately, after Jesus went all in here and got snap called by Sharon, Sharon's going to find out that unfortunately she is behind. It's going to need a miracle 9. We'll see if she hits it. No 9 there. It's going to come down to a 9 and a 9 only, and she does not. So our Lord and Savior is going to double up. He is going to remain in the fight. Sharon is going to take a nice little hit to her chip stack. Not too bad, but it's going to put her in a little bit difficult of a spot. They essentially just kind of swap places. One thing I want to point out here is our pre-flop range, or our pre-flop raises. When we're playing tournaments, we want to have aggression, right? We want to have aggression. So when we look at our pre-flop raise, we'll notice here that Kirk, Jesus, Mama, they raise about 1 out of every 5 hands that they play. And then we notice Greg with a 0 by his name. Now, I know that we haven't seen him wake up with aces or kings or any super premiums, but if we're making a mental note of the players at the table, and I notice that a player has yet to raise the entire time, anytime he's in the hand, I'm probably just going to play it about as passively as possible. If someone's range is about 0%, your pre-flop raise is 0%, your VPIP is 16%, you have an 11% aggression. Just playing a little bit too tight for tournaments. In cash games, it's not too bad. I mean, you still want to splash around a tad bit because you just don't want to give off the impression that people can just run over you if you just have absolutely nothing. You want to be in there kind of splashing around. And we see hands like right now, Sharon with the King 8, Rays with the Ace 7. Unfortunately, she's not going to get a call from either one. Even Mama J with the gutter and the overcard is just not going to be able to withstand this action. So I think Reyes is going to sit here and think about it, just kind of, play off the image. He might get a count. Of course, he has zero intention to call this. Zero. But, it just maintains your image. So he's going to get her to sweat a little bit. He might do one final peek back, and then he's going to muck his hand. I think he's going to look at it one time. He's going to look at his hand. Here we go. He's setting it up for the look at it. So he's doing a little bit of a chip dance here. Unless we've just completely misread the cards, there's just zero chance this is a call. Okay, so he's not even going to look back at it. Yeah, Mama J is going to go ahead and immediately fold her gut shot. So she's going to show the king, show that they made a good fold. Rays is kind of, again, playing off his image. Very smart. This is something that, an advanced player would typically do, is they're going to give off the impression that every decision is a tough decision. As we could see there, that was about as straightforward as a fold as you can make. But when you're in the game, there's a lot of psychology that comes into play. And Rays realizes that, if you just act instantly every time and just show that you don't really have much thought into it, it just kind of becomes easier to read. So although we knew that he had zero intention to call, he gives off the impression that anytime he's in the hand, he's going to think about it. So let's see how Covert plays this hand. Just going to call it. Steven, going to let go of the button. I don't mind that fold. Very smart. Oh, okay, so I guess I didn't see those chips. It's a little bit hard. We have We have an issue with our chips a little bit, or our cameras rather. It's kind of hard to see. It looks like we're going to have to go through and edit that. So we'll take a look at that later. But see Sharon here, going to go ahead and fire out with her 5. This is a spot where we showed aggression pre-flop. Sharon's under the gun +2. So what's her potential hands here that she would have ever, if she's under the gun +2, when she would ever have a 5-7 or a deuce in her hand? Most likely scenarios are ace 7s, ace 5s, spades. But Sharon could also wake up with like a 6-8 offsuit or something of that nature. So I think he just realized that he didn't have a good enough spot there. So he decides to let it down and let Sharon take that. I'm not sure the exact amount of chips that are in play right now. Looks like about 700,000 or so, if I had to guess. We're going to see here Kirk and Jesus get heads up. small blind, big blind action, ace jack versus king jack. I think I would have liked to have seen Kirk play that a little bit more aggressively. Let's see if Kirk can sniff this bluff out. Jesus probably has to fire, and I think he would be best to fire a value bet. Looks like he's going to do exactly that. So Jesus kind of makes it look like he has a value hand here, but let's take a look at how he's holding his cards here. Looks like he's a little bit fidgety, so can Kirk make this hero call? And no, he doesn't. Yeah, so it looks like Kirk just couldn't do it. But I think that's why I like to, anytime I'm in the small blind, I never really like limping. I always advise against a limping strategy. I think that in the small blind there, I make it 7,500. And then if my opponent wants to raise, then I can reevaluate after that. But I think if we just limp in, we have ace jack. Ace jack heads up is incredibly strong. I think once we limp in, then our opponent raises 3x. I think we still have to raise. I really do. I think it's just too many times that our opponents just probably has a weaker ace or has some kind of a small pair, maybe like a king 10, king jack, king queen hand, something of that nature that we're still ahead of. Too big of a range just because there's a raise. I think that it's just always better to take the betting lead. So pre-flop, I think I would have liked to have seen him make it 7,500. If he gets raised, to reevaluate at that point. I never like limping, because a lot of the times what you'll probably see is just a limp and then the big blind checks, and now you've got ace jack and you're going up against a random hand, and then the flop comes out 5 deuce 8, very similar to how it came out, and then what do? You're just playing a guessing game the whole time without the betting lead. And it's okay to play a guessing game without the betting lead if you are in position. But when you're out of position, it's just so much going against you right there that I'd rather take the betting lead and then kind of find out where I'm at. So, we bet 7,500. If our opponent decides to raise, we reevaluate. If he just calls, I think once that flop comes out, that we continue small, probably for about, if I had to guess, about 4,500 range, and then kind of play it that way instead of just check calling, and then having to check fold on the river when we just don't improve to anything. So it looks like it's going to fold around to the Lord and Savior. He's going to go ahead and min raise that up. I think it's actually better to raise a little bit more. Not much more, but when the big blind ante is in effect, you want to give a little bit extra incentive for your opponent to fold. And it might not sound like a whole lot, but instead of making it 6,000, I think we make it 7,500 there. And it just gives us a little bit better of a chance to take it down right then and there. And if not, we don't find ourselves in too difficult of a spot. But His Holiness is going to go ahead and take that down with a pair of sevens. Unfortunately, Sharon just couldn't hit it. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for being with us here tonight. This is a special edition of our Friday night stream. Typically, we would have been having a cash game, but we are actually mixing it up. We are doing a shootout. It's a little bit different of a standard for us, but we want to make sure that we give everybody an option to play. Thank you again for joining us. ace king versus jacks here. And raise is going to get lucky on that river and hit. I think what we need to do here is, I wouldn't put our opponent all in. I think I might bet a little small value here just to ensure a call based on the way the action was. Nope, he's going to put them all in, and unfortunately for Greg, he finally wakes up with a hand, but it is just not going to be good enough for him. Got some new comments here from Andy. Nice place. Thank you, Andy. Certainly do appreciate that. There is word of expansion. Not sure exactly when that's supposed to take place. Maureen says, good luck, Kirk. Good luck to Kirk from Maureen. So we see Jesus raise it up with the ace-3. Steven's going to defend in the big blind with the 8-5 off. I think that's okay to fold, but for a min raise for the value, I don't necessarily think it's bad. Mama J with the king-queen, backdoor straight flush draws. Jesus actually still in the lead with just ace high. It's going to be hard to know that. Steven, though, makes a good bet here. A lot of sixes are going to be in his range. Generally, when there is a min raise and a couple calls behind, this is actually really good to bet to make once everybody checks the flops. Just for the fact that they're going to have to realize that there's going to be multiple sixes that are in your range and not in theirs. You just want to play your range. It's easier for him to have a 6 than anybody else in the hand, so they just have to be mindful of that. And again, that's why, we can't see our opponent's cards, so we need to sit there and think to ourselves logically, who's most likely to have this hand in this situation. So when there's a raise like that, and we'll just say that same exact situation comes out, and the flop comes out ace, king, queen, well, who's going to have that range advantage? Definitely not the big blind. The big blind would have, you would have most likely heard from them if they had something. So because we didn't, we can just safely assume that we're good. So let's see how Sharon approaches this ace-7 suited. It's more than 3 chips, so it looks like a raise. Maybe 8. 16,000. 16,000. That is a above average opening raise. It's gonna be hard for her to get action. And she's just gonna show the ace and then muck it. It looks like she took that down, but again, I'm just not a fan of trying to see our players just try to basically get it all in pre-flop with hands that are marginal, such as ace-7 suited. Because again, it's nice that we win the blinds. We win the 3, and then we win the 1,500. So, we win 7,500. But in the long run, I think we're just costing ourselves money because almost every single time what's going to happen is our opponents are going to fold. And then the times that they don't fold, they're going to have us beat. When we raise with ace-7 suited that much, generally the hands that are going to call us all have us beat. There's just not going to be anything that we don't beat. I'd say probably the only hands that we don't don't have us beat would probably be like king-queen suited. Earlier we saw king-jack suited get a little bit loose. Maybe, even jack-10, queen-10. But those are pretty loose openings. Sharon makes the wise lay down there after Jesus raised it up 12K. Jesus is going to show a king. See, we couldn't even see what the card was. Yeah, we're going to have to get these cameras fixed because it looks like for some reason we're not broadcasting in the highest definition possible. I'm not sure why that is. It's going to have to be done on the other end, though, because I don't actually have control over the camera quality. Ooh. Yep, so if that popped up, that's why I can't do it. I am in a back room watching the stream the same time as you guys. We are on a 15-minute delay, so all this that we're watching now happened about 15 minutes ago. It's just a way that we have a way to ensure the integrity of the game. You don't want to do live streams live because that way somebody could communicate back to the players. We want to make sure that there's no ways of being able to cheat the game or colluding. So I think what's going to happen is next time when we get the live stream going, probably actually tomorrow they're not having one. I think Sunday is going to be the next time for the live stream. Have to get that corrected. We're going to see a jack high board here. It's pretty wet. Looks like food. Did she get some food? I didn't get no food. Is there food here? I'll tell you what, I am freaking starving. I haven't had a single thing to eat all day long. The snack bar is completely void of anything edible. So Sharon bet out 5K, an extremely optimistic bet with literally nothing. Kirk just can't fold here. I mean, you just can't fold. Not top pair, flush draw. Sharon now is going to go ahead and take a stab. Is that 30,000? And Kirk folded? Wow. Excellent bet by Sharon. Definitely expected Kirk to call that with the blocker to the flush. I mean, I'm trying to think of a hand that he's putting his opponent on. I mean, unless you are just dead set on your opponent having a flush, even though you have a blocker. I think typically most times you're just going to be against a jack or a 9. And with having the king jack there, I think we just call. So we're going to go this board 3 ways. Jesus and covert. With the same hand, Sharon. Now with the gutter. 0 chance she folds this hand, so we'll see what happens here. Well, actually, you know, covert makes an excellent bet all in. It's a little optimistic, especially since we just have the jack of spades. I think I would like this bet if my hand was reversed with the ace of spades and the jack of hearts. I think I'd like this play a little bit better. But Sharon would actually have better equity than she realizes. She could hit any 3, any 4, any 5. But she thinks better of it, lays it down. I do like that lay down, obviously. But with that shove, I like the shove because, you know, we showed aggressive pre-flop. The flop comes out king high, which is going to be a part of our range almost every time because obviously we're, you know, if we're somewhat short and we're raising, we're just going to have every ace king, king queen, king jack, king tens, maybe even king nines suited. So I like the bet. I don't know if I like an all-in because I'm just putting myself in a position to get beat. I think I'd like to bet a little bit smaller. I don't mind the all-in so much just because we are going to go ahead and win the pot right there. But again, I think I would rather do that with the ace of spades in my hand. Just for that backup equity, essentially. You would never think that the jack high flush is good as if you hit it. We see here that Kirk is going to get it all in here. Is it going to run into anything? No. So it looks like Kirk's just going to go ahead and take this pot down. He's going to add 10,000 to his stack. 4,000 from the blind, 4,000 from the ante, 2,000 from the small. And we're going to move on. Again, taking a look at our stacks here. As the blinds go up every 15 minutes, you'll notice that the big blinds go further and further down. So now we see that at one point, you know, our chip leader was at 160, 70, 80 big blinds. Now our chip leader with a monster chip lead only has 52 big blinds. So that's what you'll notice, and this is what I absolutely love about tournament poker, is that as the tournament progresses, everybody's stacks just become naturally more and more shallow. Makes us have to mix up our game and play a little bit of hands. But this is why I think you don't need to go crazy. And I've tried to explain it multiple times, but I think that we can just play a small ball approach and play aggressively. I don't think we need to get in there and be betting huge and, you know, say we bet pre-flop huge, you know, 4, 5, 6x and got called. And I don't think we need to just be bluff shoving the flops and betting, you know, 5, 10, 15 big blinds on the flop. I think we can get away with just, again, betting 2.5, 3x pre-flop, really more about 2 to 2.5x, especially at this depth of chips, about 2.5x. And then once you get called, you can reevaluate, but generally you're going to want to fire out about 25 to 35% of the pot and just take down the small pots. You don't have to get it all in and double up. You don't have to do that. You can just play pretty straightforward and be a winning player. So covert seems to be setting himself up to allow Jesus to bluff, but Jesus is a man of miracles. He knows that he's being trapped. He's not going to walk on this water and fall through. He's just going to go ahead and take the bridge and get past it. Covert, extremely happy to take that pot down. Had a lot of bad luck early on, but he's now over the $100,000 mark, so pretty solid. We'll take a look at our stacks real quick before this next hand is dealt. Again, Ray up top, 207,000. Almost twice as much as second place. And then bringing up the bottom is Greg with 2 big blinds sitting on 9,500. Again, our VPIP. This is only showing 7 people. I'm not sure where Greg is. Greg is not showing up. I think we're a little bit in the future, and that's probably why. So we'll just let this play out and see what happens to old Greg. I'm old Greg. He's only with fours. Unfortunately for him, I think this might be the end. Spoiler alert. Just because his name is no longer on there. And yep, he is going to get the bad news of running into pocket queens. Greg, with his first raise pre-flop. I'd like to congratulate Greg on his first raise pre-flop. It only took him being all in to get his first raise. He's going to need a Miracle 4. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it. So Greg is going to, unfortunately, be eliminated. Covert feels bad, but isn't going to complain that he gets the rest of those chips, even though it was only 2 big blinds. But unfortunately for Greg, he was a rock today. He didn't raise once pre-flop except for when he was all in. His voluntarily put in pot, his VPIP, was one of the lowest I've seen in a while. So I think Greg just needs to have a self-evaluation of how aggressive he needs to be, and notice that he has 0% aggression. And honestly, sometimes if you're scared to put money in the pot, I think sometimes what the best thing to do is to not even look at your cards and then just to raise, because you don't feel any pressure when you do that. If you get raised, you'll just fold. But sometimes when I'm playing tournaments, I'll act like I'll look at my cards. If I'm like card dead, I'll act like I'll look at my cards, do my little, look around the table, kind of pause for a moment, and then I'll raise. And the reason I do that is because I'm super card dead, and I want to almost give off the impression that I've got strength in my hands, but I also don't want to give anything away. Like if I know that, my hand is 7-4 offsuit, I'll feel some kind of way about raising. But if I don't know what it is, it actually gets a little bit more exciting, and then it keeps your opponents guessing, because, you might wake up with a random Queen 4 offsuit, and then a flop like this will come out where you hit, middle, bottom pair, or something of that nature. You just don't want to let yourself dwindle out of tournaments. It's like basically playing that kind of strategy is like going to play bingo, but when they call the numbers, you don't have a dauber. You're just there to be there, and then you're never going to win. So never forget your dauber. Get in there, splash around. You don't have to have aces to advance. Like you don't have to have kings, queens, ace, king to get in there and splash around. I mean, just the other day, I was playing in a cash game. I had 2-4 suited. I had 2-4 of spades, and I was under the gun, and I min raised. I wanted to splash around, and I min raised, but I don't have to wake up with a good hand to do that. People just naturally think because I'm under the gun and I'm min raising that I have a pretty strong hand. So, long story short, the flop came out as we see in all in here. Just speed the story up real quick. Basically, the flop came out, ace, king, king. The big blind who had called led out. I just called. He checks the turn. And I bet small, and he folds. And he was just like, well, I guess you got to have the ace, king. I'm sitting there with deuce 4 suited. So we see here Rays and Kirk have the same hand, ace, king. Let's see if anybody can get some equity. Rays has a little bit of equity, though. He's going to need the diamond. He's going to need runner, diamond. Can he hit it? He does! Oh, my goodness. That is disgusting. Wow. Poor Kirk. He's going to be eliminated from the tournament. Rays is just running like absolute fire right now. Hit runner to beat Kirk on a nice pot. We're going to see that we are now down to our final 6 players. Rays is going to be all the way up in front with 62 big blinds. It's almost double what second place has. We only have 3 players over the 100K mark, but Rays is quickly approaching 2,500,000. Mama J is going to need to make some miracles happen. She's got 30,000. The blinds are 4 and 4. So we don't have much time to sit around and wait. We're going to have to start making some plays. Again, thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. Again, we are here at Club JAQK here in Louisville, Kentucky. Currently got 35 viewers on the stream for our special shootout Friday night live stream. It's a $100 buy-in with rebuys and an add-on. I'm not sure what the payouts are. I have not been made aware. I'm sure they're pretty nice. It's been a lot of money splashed around in here. A lot of money. Rays is an excellent, excellent position right now to just play pretty straightforward, continue the tight, aggressive approach. It's worked well for him, especially against the crowd tonight. But again, if you'd like any information on Club Jack, please be sure to visit us on clubjackpoker.net. You can visit us on any of our social media platforms. It's Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all those. You can also find us on clubjackpoker.net and as well as Poker Atlas and the Poker Atlas app. Here we see Sharon with a 9. Without question, just goes ahead and ships it instead of getting some value. I think in that spot I might just check and then let my opponent bet and then go all in. Try to get some kind of value for top pair. Top pair in a gutter doesn't sound very well, but there's always value to be had. So here we see Steven with 40K. I'd assume that Steven just has no option but to go all in with his chip stack. It's going to be hard for him to get any kind of calls with these cards, so looks like he's going to go ahead and take that down. It's definitely extremely crucial for him, having only 40,000, and the blinds, I believe they're up now at 6 at 6 and 3. So he adds 15,000 to his stack. It's about 40%. Literally didn't even have to see a flop and increased his stack by about 40%. As good as it gets. He's going to need to do that a couple more times, though, to be able to compete. Steven there makes the laydown with the 9-10. Jesus. Probably a good spot to make it about 14.5, 15,000. He just goes for the min raise. Not bad. Covert, I would expect just to call in the big blind and defend, especially for only one more blind. But again, this is where a spot where I think once we get a little bit later in the tournament, instead of min raising, I kind of like a 2.5x. Ooh, and then Covert secretly hits the 4s. I think Jesus needs to realize here, this is a spot where I don't think Jesus should be betting. Jesus doesn't have the range advantage at all. I think Covert should also just call here and let his opponent continue to hang himself, but this is the worst turn card in the world. Jesus has no other option but to check here. Now a straight hits the board, and Jesus hits runner to beat the set. Jesus should do nothing but fire about 25% pot here and get a call. How much does he bet? 20,000 into 80. Was that correct? 20,000 into 80, or is that already updated? And he is going to get the bad news that he's a freaking 9. So disgusting. But the problem with the King 9 there betting on the flop is that you just have no range advantage. So when you're just min raising on the button and then the button just flat calls you, or excuse me, the big blind just flat calls you, the big blind's range is just going to be so much wider than yours. I mean, I know you're going to have a wide range of like maybe all the way down to like King 7 offsuits, but I think we're a little bit better off just checking behind and then just playing the turn card. Either way, he gets lucky, wins the hand, but still, we don't want to find ourselves just pouring chips into the pot with basically nothing. Let's see what he goes with here. If he goes for another 12. Let's see if he varies his bet sizing depending on the strength of hand. Oh, 12. So he's going back to 12, just sticking with the min raise. Again, I think we need to give a little bit extra incentive for our opponents to fold and just to steal the pots without any flops. So I think, again, 2.5x is where we need to be at. So right at about 14.5, 15.5 thousand, I think is where I'd like to see the bet. Steven with the king 2 suited. I know it looks bad, but when you're extremely short and you're in the big blind, it's only one blind to call and you're getting the pot odds that you're getting. I actually don't mind the call with the king 2 suited. King 2 unsuited should fold every single time, but king 2 suited, it's not bad. Jesus this time has more equity, right? So I don't mind this bet as much. He bets 15,000, pretty standard. But you notice that any 8 is good for a straight. Any backdoor diamonds is good for the nut flush. And I like this bet a little bit better than the king 9 just for the fact that we have equity in this hand. Steven is kind of showboating right now. He's never going to be in this hand, or did he already fold? Yeah, it looks like it's going to come back down to Jesus, and Jesus is just unfortunately going to have to lay that down. But that's also another reason that I advocate for betting a little bit more than the minimum. I think minimum bets are really good for like early position. So, under the gun, +1, +2, +3, in those ranges. I like the min raise. But as we get further into position, I think we need to open up that bet sizing just a little bit more. Just, again, who knows if she folds the 9-7 offsuit there, but if we give her a little bit more extra incentive to do that, she might not even be in the hand. But who knows? We're going to see Mama J here. She just unfortunately would rather get it all in with Queen 8 offsuit than wait to be all in the blinds. It's going to be interesting to see what Steven does here with the Jack 9 suited. I think we just have to fold here and wait for a better spot. Jesus, I just don't see a fold ever with King Queen for the chip stack. Yeah, you can see the look in Mama's face right now. She's extremely disappointed. Not necessarily that she's crushed in this spot, but just that she was so short stacked to have to be in that position in the first place. It's going to come down to an 8 and an 8 only for. Unfortunately, she doesn't have it. It was just not her day today. But of course, that's nothing to go against her. A majority of the time, it's just not our day. Hell, that's why I became a poker dealer and a poker commentator, because I found out that most days were not my days, and that generally speaking, I really only had on average about 4.5 to 5 days per year that were in fact my days. So looks like we are going to be down to our final 5 players. Let's take a look at the chip stacks here before we get the action back up and going. Got raise up front. 38 big blinds, killing the game. We still only have 3 players that are over the 100K mark. So let's see here. Jesus. It's a Jesus with the Queen 9 suited. Sharon never sees a hand she doesn't like, is going to just accept that she has position. This is going to be interesting because Jesus is always going to fire here. You've got the gutter and you've got the backdoor flush draw, and Sharon is going to instantly raise. No? No? Just call. Yeah, so she's gonna suck her opponent in there, try to avoid the jack. She does just that. Unfortunately for Jesus, he just has nothing. I think Sharon, with her 2 pair, kind of needs to know where she's at. Looks like she's just going to check or go all in. I don't know what happened there, but either way, queen high was just never going to be good enough to make a call there, really, for any kind of amount. I think the best thing that Sharon could have maybe done there is bet small and that hoped that her opponent bluffed at her. But with the straights out there, the flushes out there, basically everything is out there, I think it's best that she just realizes her spot and that she doesn't have a premium 2-pair holding. She has a middling 2-pair holding. So you don't want to put too much money in there with 2-pair if it's not even, one of the premium 2 pairs. At least not, you at least want top and bottom. But when you have basically bottom and bottom, it's just very difficult to continue. See, Rays is going to go ahead and flop an ace here against Sharon. Sharon, knowing her aggression. I think if I'm Rays here, I think I just call and let Sharon hang herself. I mean, you've got the ace-jack. You're blocking basically all the potential draws that are out there outside of diamonds. I think it's best that he just call, let Sharon continue betting. Looks like she goes for 10. Is that accurate? 10? 6K? I think at this point, if I'm raised, I'm going to go ahead and raise it up a little bit. I don't think I'm going to go crazy. I think Sharon's typical holdings are going to be like maybe at best queen 10, jack 10, something like that. And it looks like raise does in fact raise. I really love this raise. And unfortunately for him, they are going to end up chopping this. I can hear flush draw. It sounds like he was a little bit nervous. So it's going to go chop chop. I think Rays played it well. You got your opponent to basically call in on the turn with nothing. The gutter, and unfortunately she hit it. I do like the raise though. I think we need to start charging our opponent's equity on the turn, especially excuse me, get a little stretch in. I think there's just too much equity on the turn, too many potential draws, multiple flush draws, multiple straight draws, boat draws. Looks like the chat's finally coming to life. I see Jake here, crazy here, luck. Captain Furley, oh my gosh, she makes mistake after mistake and gets rewarded. Yeah, sometimes that happens. I've seen it for years and years and years. People just, we call it making the wrong move at the right time. We've all done it, just not as consistently as Sharon does it. Sometimes, like for example, especially in tournaments, we try to maintain our aggression. We'll just say, for example, we have ace king and there was a raise and we 3-bet and the flop comes jack high. Our opponents check and then we bet and get called and it turns the 10. So now the board is 10 jack. We got ace king and our opponent checks and we bet. And then they called and then the queen hits the river. So we ended up hitting runner when we were just trying to steal it the whole time. And then, we see that our opponent flopped a set and was just trying to slow play us to death. So we've seen that play out about like 12 times tonight where basically people were just going crazy and somehow or another actually hit it. Okay, Jake, that makes much more sense. Corrected that to her luck. Yeah, she's been extremely lucky tonight. But she also, I mean, when we start looking at the VPIP, Sharon's VPIP currently is at 60%. So wow, Steven got in there with the 7-9 and flopped the straight. Sharon's just not going to fold with her pair and a gutter. Now she needs a 6 or a 5. Oh, she almost hit it too. That would have been disgusting. So Steven's going to get a much needed double up from Sharon, unfortunately, and he's going to be sitting at about 107,000. See a comment here from Wooter on YouTube. What's the payout look like? That's actually a really good question, Woot. I am not 100%. I do believe that the predetermined payouts were for top 2, but it's because there was rebuys and add-ons for the shootout, which isn't typically normal. Typically in a shootout, single table sit and go, you're just, you're all in and you're out if you get knocked out. But on this one, for this particular sit and go, it was a special edition. They had 2 available rebuys. So if you got knocked out, you had the ability to rebuy. And at the end of the first break, you had the option to do a $30,000 add-on for like $40 or something like that. So it was like $100 buy-in, $40 rebuys, $20 add-on, I think is what it was. So yeah, it should be pretty decent. Might be able to take a look at it here in a moment, but Jason, walk out, check the board. Should be a nice little hit. Yeah, actually, because they have the 7 o'clock tournament, they don't have both. I tried to look at it earlier, but they only had the 1 clock up. So I'm not sure. I think it's just somebody on the side keeping track of the actual time. I'm not sure if they're planning on doing another break in like 40 minutes. I'm not sure if they plan on doing that. So we see Jesus here making it 50,000 with aces. Raise, I think, wants to gamble, and he does. So we're going to see an interesting flop here. Let's see what happens. Jesus and raise. Okay, so it's a dead flop, yeah. So Jesus is going to check, raise is going to check, and raise just needs to hope he doesn't hit a 4 or 5 or a heart on the turn. A 2, 3, something to give him a straight draw probably won't affect it too much, but I hope Jesus isn't going to bet too much here. 30,000, not bad. I like the bet for the pot sizing. We don't want to, I mean, we have basically, everything absolutely crushed, and we don't want to just make our opponents fold out everything. So 30 might be a little bit stout, maybe like 20, maybe just to ensure a call. But either way, he goes out and takes out a nice little pot. Yeah, Jason, they had this tournament, the sit and go, started at 5 p.m. and they have a 7 p.m. nightly tournament going on as well. So when I walked out there, I noticed that the tournament clock was for the 7 p.m. tournament. So if I can get a chance, I'll try to get a look at it. But looks like they had a nice little turnout for the 7 p.m. tournament, though. I think they had like 4 tables at least. So, decent little turnout here. My goodness, what is going on here? So, Jesus has checked with the gutter, the ace high, and Sharon, with her position, has went all in with 4 deuce offsuit. Jesus can't call this, I don't think. Not for 100,000, but what a play by Sharon. She is just hyper aggressive. And I mean, think about it logically. Like, what's the hands that Sharon has here? Does she do this with 2 pair? I don't think so. Does she do this with a straight? I don't think so. Does she do this with a set? I don't think so. So she's not doing this with any of those things. What do you think her holding is? In my eyes, typically it's going to be a flush draw, maybe one pair with a gutter, maybe two overs with a gutter. Not necessarily trying to find reasons to call with ace-9 offsuit, but if we just take a moment to think about our opponent's range, we know she's a little bit on the crazy side, a little bit aggressive, but at the same time, do premium hands overbet that right there? I just don't think so. I think ace high could, in some scenarios, call there, but you better be stone cold on your read to call that. So I got a couple more questions here. How many entries in the 7 p.m.? You know, that's a good question, Wooter. Not 100% sure. I want to say originally they had about 4 tables. Let me see if I can see outside the door, because I'm in the back room in the far back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I want to say they have about 4 tables. So roughly about 40 entries or something like that. Jason says she is wild. I love it. Yeah, she's great for the game. It's great to watch too. Well, it sucks to watch because I'm sitting here in the back room and I'd love to be playing in the tournament, but for not being invested in the tournament, this is why I loved being a poker dealer, because I get to watch people play like this and it's always fun. She actually has gone in with 2 pair and flop straight. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, but I'm speaking generically. Like, obviously, opponent to opponent can vary based on strategy, as we see Steven here wake up with aces. The man is glowing like Jesus right now. Jake Bishop, having a hand containing a straight blocker is a better holding to have to find a bluff catcher. Absolutely, that's basically what I was getting to. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Jake, and that's kind of what I was getting to. Because we have the straight blocker, it's easier for us to find bluffs in those situations. And if our opponent is bluffing, we need to develop a bluffing range. And what would be the hands that would typically bluff in that spot, just going all in? I think on a straight board like that, a bluff would be returning, a hand like top pair, no kicker into a bluff. I think spades, overcards, gutters, flush draws, stuff like that are probably going to be more in the typical bluffing range, especially with that blocker. Now, if we don't have the 9, obviously she could have the straight, but it's a little bit easier to see is all. No, absolutely. I totally agree. 4-2 is a great play. Ballsy. Absolutely, it's definitely ballsy. And, again, when we see these plays, behind the scenes, it's fun to watch, It's really fun to watch. But I will say, Sharon has come to play. She has come to terminate. She has made plays that I would not normally advocate, but she has been winning. She's also been getting a little lucky. But everybody's got their own playing style, and if that's how she enjoys playing, that's all that really matters. Don't ever let somebody dictate the way you play. Just play the way you want. Oh, absolutely. 0 equity bluffs. Better believe that. Yeah, there's some spots there where she's just completely drawing dead. Obviously it's hard for our opponent, to have flopped the straight there, and then she goes all into a straight. But, if our opponent flops 2 pair, straight, a pair with a flush draw, a pair with a gutter, it's just everything has you crushed with deuce 4. Like with the deuce 4 all in, you're basically just praying that your opponent has nothing. As we see here, it looks like we're going to get an all in Blinds are now 5 and 10,000, so every orbit you're putting in 25,000 of your chips into the pot. So these are going to be some spots where we just have to make plays. I know it's uncomfortable. I know we don't like doing it, but sometimes there's just really no other choice but to make plays. Alright, so it looks like we are, I guess, just getting the blinds correct. Maybe color it up. Not sure what's happening here. Let's see, he's got 15,000 in his hand. I think they're doing a small color up right now. Let's see what's going on. I'm just a little bit behind. Well, while we got a moment, I guess while they're doing that, again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're currently at 37 streamers, shared across Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all that. Thanks for joining us and hanging out with us tonight for this special edition Friday night stream, where we're playing a sit-and-go tournament for $100 with rebuys and add-ons. Only 9 players started. Currently down to 5. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, be sure to visit us on clubjackpoker.net or any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, so on. You can also find us on Poker Atlas and the Poker Atlas app, where you can find table information as far as what games are running and all the other questions you may need answers to. It's extremely rare to play against women to put in piles with 0% equity deep in a sit and go. Yeah, that is rare. Generally speaking, you would want at least 1% equity, but you're going all in with 0. You've either got a soul read on your opponents or you're just literally trying to get them to fold. And to me, personally, I mean, I get in trouble with this sometimes. To me, when I see a bet like that, it just screams fold, right? Like it says, please fold, please let me win this hand. Typically, it'll be like a top pair weak kicker or something. It's just, in my experience, now, of course, every player is different, and you can definitely get some tricky players in there. But in my experience, people that flop strong hands want value, right? Like, so if you have a strong hand, you want value. If I want somebody to fold, like, hey, please don't call me, I'm going to overbet. And an all-in bet on a flop with a straight out there, to me, okay, woman, old man, coffee. Old man with coffee. That's hilarious. Yeah, there's. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. After being a dealer for so many years, I see this like it's nothing. So I see Jesus here with ace queen suited, very lovely. He's going to raise that up, and he's going to get the bad news that Sharon's in the hand, and I just have a bad feeling about this Jack 6 offsuit. Poor Jesus might. Oh, please don't get unlucky here. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, so Jesus might just ship it here. And Sharon's just going to instantly raise. Yep. Look at Jesus' face. Poor guy. Looks like he was just betrayed by Judah. He knows he's about to be crucified with this ace-queen suited. And he's going to be like, oh, hey, I actually still have the best hand. I got ace high right here. And he's like, please, no Jack 6, 8, 3. Good on the fly turn. Good on the river. Wow. So ace queen actually holds up right there. Very impressive by Jesus. Wins a much, much, much needed hand from Sharon. Unfortunately for Sharon, took a massive hit right there. We can take a look at our chip stacks now. Actually, they're not up to date because, yeah, these are a little bit different here. So let's take a look here, see what happens on this next hand. Judas. That's what it is. Well, that's level 1 unless she's actually on level 2. Although, I mean, she's not at all in ON coffee. Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with that. Yeah, so it looks like my chip stacks aren't actually accurate to what I have on the screen here, so I'm not even going to pop those up. We got an all-in here. Raise is going to fold. Not even think about it. Sharon all in with the ace-3, covert, king-9. Sharon's going to have a small lead on the equity. She's going to win almost about 2/3 of the time here. Let's see if her hand can hold up. She's been on a little bit of a downswing. Ace-high is still good. Looking to avoid the king or the 9. And she does. So Sharon is going to double up, it looks like, and leave covert with 15,000. That's going to be enough for about 2/3 of a big blind. So we have an all-in here in the big blind. He has 15,000 total to start the hand. So what'll happen here in this particular situation, it's a little bit different in big blind antes. The big blind should actually be covered first. So he should have 10,000 in front of him and then 5,000 for the ante. The reason we do that is because it's not what it used to be where everybody antes. We now have a big blind ante. And if he was to only win the ante, he would win nothing, even if everybody at the table doubled him up. So that's why you make sure that your hand is in the, your chips are in the big blind first, because when people call, they match up to it, then you can win. He's going to need a king or a 4, and he's going to need it now. He does not have it, so unfortunately covert's eliminated. It looks like we're down to our final 4 players. Jason, they don't do it different here, Tom. They literally out ante first and don't let you in. Yeah, see, I saw that mistake once. I said something, but it's not my place to really say something, but this was months and months ago, but came up here for a free roll one time, and the long story short, basically that's just what happened. The big blinds had 1 blind left, or maybe like a half a blind, and they put it in his ante, and they were like, hey, what? They called the floor over, and it's like, I don't know what to do with this, and the floor was like, well, you put it in the ante. And again, this isn't my place. I'm only an experienced dealer that's dealt for many years, played the game for many years. I said one thing, and I only said it once. I said, if he wins this hand, he's not going to win anything. And I left it at that. So, believe it or not, what ends up happening is he gets all in against 5 people. 5 people. He wins the hand. He gets his ante back. And I tried to tell him, I was like, this is what's going to happen. Like, he's going to quadruple up. I don't know what you call a 5 up, but quintuple, maybe? Is that what it is? And they only put it in for his ante. And because nobody else antes, he just got his money back. And I'm like, dude, again, this isn't my place. I'm not a floor. I'm a floor poker supervisor, and I know the rules, and it was just completely inaccurate. But this isn't my place. It's house rules. Different houses have different rules. So I'm not going to sit here and tell them they're right, they're wrong. If that's the way they do it, that's the way they do it. But I gave them their one warning, and they did it. Unfortunately for whoever that poor soul was, he should have quadrupled up, 5x'd his money. Instead, he put in, we'll just say 1,000, and then he got 1,000 back. It was awful. Let's see here. No litter. I played last week and that happened. I've seen the exact same thing. Dude won, got his half. It's literally 1K. Yeah, Jake, definitely. I mean, I worked the World Series of Poker last year. I've dealt for many, many years. It's the only time that I've actually ever seen that happen. Again, I tried to say something, but this isn't my place to do that. So I just tried to warn them for the future. If it's still happening, it's definitely an issue. But so it looks like we are now down to 3. We got the Jesus, Sharon, and Rays. Looks like Rays is bringing up the rear with 150,000. He's gonna have to make something happen here. Unfortunately for him, he's gonna probably think that King 10 is really good here, but he is gonna get the quick bad news that Jesus has pocket kings. The worst thing Rays can do here is just ship it, but let's see what happens. Let's see how Rays decides to play this. Yeah, I think he's just going to go all in. Unfortunately, he's going to get the bad news that Jesus is walking on water, catching miracles. Ray, look, you can see it on Ray's face. He just hates that. He'd rather see pocket aces than pocket kings, but Ray is going to need a miracle flop. He's going to need lots of jacks, queens, nines, aces. And that is exactly what he wants to see here. So he needs a jack. He's got 4 outs. Jack and a jack only. And unfortunately not. It looks like Rays is going to be eliminated, unfortunately, in 3rd place. Just coming up on the bubble. They paid top 2?
Yep.
Yeah, so they are, in fact, paying top 2. Unfortunate for Ray. Just absolutely brutal. I don't blame him at all going all in with the King 10 there. A majority of the time, your opponents are just going to have just a little bit less holdings. So let's just see. I'm hearing the term chop in the background. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here. Do we know what the payouts were?
1220 was the total prize pool, and it paid 810 and 410.
So he says a $1,220 prize pool.
810 first, 410 second.
810, 410.
Yep.
All right, so we finally got some updates on these numbers. I know y'all were asking about it earlier. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but Justin just came in here and gave me a little heads up on the payouts. So it looks like we had a combined prize pool of $1,220, first place, taking home the lion's share of $810. Second place, $410. Yeah, I'm hearing that they might be chopping it. Do we know if they play any, or are they just going to go ahead and chop it now?
Chop it, no hands.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like they're just going to go ahead and end the tournament. And as far as the 1-3, that's all bad for the night?
No 1-3.
Okay.
We got plenty of action though, don't we?
Yeah. So it looks like they are actually going to go ahead and chop that. It looks like Jesus and Sharon are going to go ahead and split that. Not sure exactly how they're going to do the payouts, but again, first place was 810. Second place was 410 for a combined 1220. They might decide to do 610 apiece. Chop that up evenly. I'm not sure. I did get word that the 1-3 game is not going to go tonight. It's just a little bit late. It's really probably just best that we don't have a stream go for just like 2 or 3 hours. There is other action going on. Of course, we still have our 7 p.m. tournament, which might have already stopped registering. I'm not sure exactly, but a couple of cash games going as well. I'd certainly like to thank everybody that was here with us tonight watching our special edition Friday night live stream of the Sit and Go tournament. Again, in the future, we do plan on having various different formats. just again to give a broader way to play for many more people out there. Double check this shit. That's why I'm yeah, I totally agree with you, Jake. But again, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Again, there's not going to be a live stream tomorrow. Sunday is going to pick back up. Again, next weekend we're going to be back onto our normal schedule. But if you have any kind of questions, comments, concerns, be sure to visit us on clubjackpoker.net, visit us on Facebook or any of our other social media platforms. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hope you all have a great rest of the weekend, and we will